Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Friday. Today we're listening to closing arguments for Letecia Stauch's trial. And actually, the jury, they're in deliberation now. They just went into deliberation. So I'm a little bit late because I forgot to go to the airport, but we're going to listen to the closing arguments. I'm going to actually start with the defense's closing argument, Leticia's team. And then I think we're going to move on to rebuttals because usually in rebuttal, they kind of summarize almost everything that they said in the original closing argument. So we'll do the defense, we'll listen to rebuttal, and then we'll take it from there. All right, guys. This is again the defense for Letecia Stauch, and wow, we're on day 20 already. Time flies, doesn't it?
There you go. The one thing
I'm going to speed it to like 1.25. If you're watching this in a VOD, you can just slow it down to like 0.75. It should be like the same, but we're just going to speed up just a little bit, because sometimes you talk a little bit slow, but we'll see. Depends on the cadence of this lawyer. If he talks too fast, then I'll go back to normal speed. Hey, Chris, how are you doing today?
they cannot answer because there is no answer is motive. Motive for why this happened. Motive how we can go from this picture on a hike up at Garden of the Gods, loving, kind, to less than 24 hours later.
Thought we had
Brutal
motive.
Rage. 18 stab wounds. 4 blunt force trauma. Shot. This wasn't a pre-planned, calculated killing for some gain. This was a psychotic break fueled by rage attacking a demon from the past. They cannot come up with a motive because there is no motive that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, but wasn't she making some really suspicious searches online like a couple of days before or like a week before?
They have tried. They have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours trying to come up with one. They've gone through phones. They have gone through iCloud accounts. They have gone through Facebook messages. They've interviewed everybody who they could possibly think of to try to find some motive. None of what they have done in this, the biggest investigation in the history of El Paso County, has come up with a motive. No one who they have ever interviewed has ever said that she ever had a problem with Gannon. No one who they have ever interviewed has ever said she was ever mean to Gannon. No one who they've ever interviewed or come across anything and said she's ever done anything wrong to Gannon until that horrible day when this
But her search history, and her herself tells a different story. Hi, Rita. Hi, Diane. Hello, hello.
happens.
Yeah, she searches, I hate my stepson. Who does that? Who searches that? That's really weird. Usually, if you have a problem with a family member, it's like, oh, how do I get along with my stepson? How do I get along with my stepdaughter? How do I get along with my stepmother or like, mother-in-law? How do I make amends with her? Stuff like that, right? Just like, I hate my stepson. Like, what kind of Google search results are you expecting to get from that? Other people that agree with you and other people are going to be like, oh my God, let's go kill my stepson. Like, she wasn't even trying to resolve the problem, right? It just seems like she wanted to find other people that agreed with her. And then she just kind of wanted to stew in her hatred.
That is the evidence and the most strong evidence to know this was not premeditated murder. This was a psychotic break. That is the only thing that makes sense. And when you can pull yourself back and peel back the layers of the anger over the act, at the anger over the deceit in which it happened, at the anger over Gannon's body being driven all the way to Florida, when we take those emotions back and we try to look at this rationally, the only thing that possibly makes sense is a psychotic break. There is no other rational explanation to understand why this happened other than that. He was a special needs teacher, elementary needs teacher. That's what she'd been hurt.
That's what scares me. She was a special needs teacher. I wonder how many other kids she like manipulated and like mind effed. I hope she like didn't hurt any of those kids. I don't know, man. I wouldn't put past her.
Entire life working with
Hey,
kids with special
Melissa,
needs.
we are.
She was a mother to Harley, did everything she possibly could for Harley. She was a wife to Al. And she was tried to be the best stepmother she could be to these kids. So much so that she was left with the kids for very long periods of time. In the months preceding this, when Al had gone up to Alaska, he had left his 2 kids in her care. He was gone. We were about as far across the country as you could possibly get. And based upon his relationship with her, based upon him seeing her as a loving stepmom, felt comfortable leaving his children with her alone in South Carolina. And he did that because he knew her. And
I kind of find it interesting how they were saying that, like, oh, well, everyone says that she was a loving stepmom, that she had no reason to kill Gannon, that she loved him. But then when it comes to like, well, did anyone say that, she had any psychotic breaks before? Or did she have like, DID before, like any signs of it? It's like, oh, well, now it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they say. Family members, close friends don't matter. Okay.
and he saw her and he saw that relationship she had with Gannon and he felt comfortable based upon what he had seen with her. And he felt comfortable enough that when this was going on, he felt comfortable enough to leave to go to Oklahoma. Because what he had seen and what this photo shows is they had a loving relationship together until the evidence shows that she had a psychotic break. That something, mental illness from her past, got triggered, and there's a temporary period of psychosis.
No, we
That's
don't
the
believe
only
that.
rational explanation
No, it's
that has
not.
been presented. And there's
Believe it.
nothing else they can come up with as far as motive. Ladies and gentlemen, does it make sense that she may have Google searched, maybe moving to Florida? Yeah. People have problems in marriages. Do people fantasize some about getting out by Googling stuff? But how would brutally murdering Gannon, how would stabbing him 18 different times facilitate that move? It wasn't. There's no rational basis behind the murder other than psychosis. The fact that
What do I think? Do you think she's insane or no? Personally, I do not. I think she's crazy, not insane. I do not think she's mentally insane. I do not think she has DID. I think that's all crap. And I think at some point, it was suggested that maybe she came up with the whole DID thing because when she interviewed with that psychiatrist, I forgot her name, but it seemed that this psychiatrist like kind of like gave her that idea, you know, like, hey, maybe you got DID, multiple personalities.
she may have years before at some point in time done one Google search out of 1,000 saying, I don't like my stepson. That's not what I see there in that picture. That's not what I see there going on in the days leading up to this horrible tragedy. What it does,
I will say though, I don't know, because initially I thought that maybe she didn't have hate towards her stepson. It was more like hate towards her husband, hate towards herself, and it all kind of just compounded. And she blew up, and it got directed at the stepson. Really unlucky, right? But we find out that, you know, there was a candle burn going on. We find out that she may have been possibly drugging him. Seems like maybe she was also trying to find other methods of getting rid of him. She Google searched like hit and run. Like there's a lot of really weird things that was happening. I do think that she, for some reason, decided to just out Gannon and chose him as the one that she was going to concentrate all her hate on. You know, we always hear stories about like abuse where you hear like one child will be severely abused, but then the other siblings were like, oh, you know, it didn't happen to me. Don't know why. I don't know why mom decided to just abuse this one sibling, right? So, you know, sometimes we hear stories like that, and we don't know why she was so fixated on Gannon. I have no idea.
seem to indicate, ladies and gentlemen, if we start looking at this time frame, looking at the reliable evidence that we have in front of us, is that somehow that fire set off some type of trigger. Maybe some type of trigger that had been disassociated long ago.
Happy
We have
Friday.
her
Hi, Adam.
starting meltdown right after this fire. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Lewis used the term wacky a lot, maybe not.
Oh, wait, is Dr. Lewis the one that's a psychiatrist? Oh, man, I hope this lawyer is not going to refer to Dr. Lewis too much. I don't know, man. I don't think she did well on the stand.
Not the most scientific term, but when something seems irrational, when something doesn't seem to make sense, we have to consider mental illness. We have to consider possible psychosis. I would say that video that you heard up there, listen to the tenor of her voice, listen to what she is saying. She says, I'm freaked out. And when you listen to her voice, she is freaked out. And she's saying irrational stuff like, we're going to have to sell the sofa. Stuff like that to Gannon. That makes no sense there whatsoever.
No, she was manipulative. She was disgusting. And I don't think it was because she was like freaking out. I think if anything, I think she heard Gannon and she was trying to record it just to have like, I don't know, maybe like proof that Gannon was alive during the candle burn, or maybe even to show that like, okay, I need to prove that like I didn't do these burns to Gannon, and maybe he'll say something on the recording that will like, you know, free me of any, I don't know, accusations maybe. I don't know. Like honestly, that video recording was like really unhinged. It was really weird. I still very confused if she deleted it and they were able to recover it, or she just like kept it in her phone. It's so weird.
And then importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we also see mania starting to settle in when we start looking at these timelines specifically.
Really?
Up
Mania?
there, they're texting back and forth, 10:15, Harley comes home, 10:24, 11:30, she's still talking to Al. $2:48, she's texting Al.
Okay.
4:36.
I don't know if the jury's even going to be able to read this. This font looks tiny. And the billboard, yeah, it's a huge billboard, but looks like the contents in it is really small. Can the jury see this?
Texting the school saying that her stepfather passed away. Her
Okay.
stepfather who had abused her was not, and you heard it from Dr. Torres at the state hospital, They are not doubting or disputing the abuse that she suffered growing up. And that's from Dr. Torres, who had investigated this, who had medical record provided, who had family members provided, who interviewed other family members. And she says the state hospital is not disputing the horrible trauma that she grew up with. And the person who she had suffered that horrible trauma from, that's who she calls and says dies at 4:36 in the morning. What is more important by this, ladies and gentlemen, important to look at, what is also we see, what is she not doing? She's not sleeping. She is manic at this point in time. She is texting throughout the night, 2:48, 4:36, 4:36 again.
No, I don't think it's manic. I think she had something in the works. She was really nervous because what happens when you're really nervous or excited about something? You don't sleep. You kind of just stay up and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. Like this is about to happen. You're amping yourself up. Like I think that's the reason why she didn't go to sleep is because she knew something was about to go down. Or, she hurt Gannon severely and she was trying to figure out ways to get out of it. And then, you know what she decided on? She decided to kill him.
5:03, 5:49, 7:32. She is up the entire night and not sleeping. There is something going on with her head that is not seeming right. There's stuff going on through the day. The text messages
Hi,
back
Dustin.
and forth.
Hi, Joe.
Hardly leaves for work.
I know, right, Denise?
Other conversations going on.
That's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, dude, it's such a waste of time, man. Off with them. But, it's the American justice system. We have to go through this process, right? Because sometimes, when you think someone's really damn guilty and then they're not, you're just like, oh, okay, well, it's a good thing we went through with this. Otherwise that person would have had their head chopped off a long time ago.
And then they leave, they go up to Petco.
I don't know. That visual aid seems crap.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Young has tried to insinuate that all of this was some type of big preconceived plan, that she had made some decision earlier on at that point in time that she was going to kill Gannon. Ladies and gentlemen, does that make any sense? If she had decided at that point, early in the day, when everybody else leaves, Harley's left for work, she's just there alone with Gannon by herself. If there was a decision that was made that for some reason they cannot explain that she was going to brutally murder him, why is she taking him in the car and going up to Petco to buy Valentine's Day outfits for the dogs?
Because they went on a long drive because I think she was trying to figure out, okay, how can I get rid of him? Should I just dump him in the woods? Should I just like how should I do this? I think she was trying to figure out. She was like figuring out how to get rid of him.
That makes absolutely no sense why she would push back a timeline to just an hour or so before Lena got home. For some reason, unbeknownst to anybody, commit this brutally horrific act. Mr. Young tried to comment a lot about the hydrocodone.
Okay.
Be very careful when they try to put facts in their opinion or what they would like them to be. That was not provided by any of the witness testimony. Dr. Ignacio testified that there was hydrocodone in the system. She never made any assertions about how much, whether it was a dangerous level, whether it was inappropriate, whether it would have been affecting him whatsoever that way. All she said is this was a tox screen. This came.
I have a question. Do kids, for any reason, do they take hydrocodone though? For any reason? Do kids take hydrocodone? Like if you had surgery or something, like hydrocodone should never be used to treat pain or a cough in children younger than 18. Yeah, I was like, hydrocodone? Kids take hydrocodone? What? Hello? I think Letecia was trying to say that like, oh, Gannon was taking hydrocodone on his own. Okay, Gannon's smart enough to treat his sickness with hydrocodone. Gannon's smart enough to get rid of the smell of poop by lighting up a candle.
Came back. That's Mr. Young's opinion that somehow
kids just do this. Something stinks. You fucking hand wave it. You don't just, let me just light a candle. Oh, no, my God, it smells good. Oh, lavender scent. Love it.
This was an overdose of hydrocodone, but there was no evidence of that.
Maria's a junkie.
And there was no basis that would be for a brutal, horrible attack on a young 11-year-old boy that she'd just been hiking with up there 24 hours earlier. Something is going on in her mind. Something is there losing it. And something horrible occurs in the basement where there is a brutal, brutal attack. The brutality of the attack, ladies and gentlemen, I would say is the strongest evidence in this entire case.
He's like, let me take a sip really quick. I feel like it's really hard for him because, he probably thinks Letecia's a piece of crap too, but he's got to go up there, put on his game face, do his best that he can to represent Letecia, right? But dude, it must be tough, man. Lawyers could be the greatest actors in the world.
Of a psychotic break. That type of violence wouldn't be needed to kill an 11-year-old boy. Gannon weighed 80, 85 pounds. An 11-year-old kid. Not the biggest 11-year-old kid. Not the strongest 11-year-old kid. Fun, nice kid. What do we know about him? He likes to play a lot of video games. But not needing this type of brutal, horrific rage to kill him. And there is no other, again, explanation other than the psychotic break. Lena then comes home, and ladies and gentlemen, look on that video. Lena wasn't pushed outside. Lena wasn't allowed. Lena came in the house. She's in that house for about 10, 15 minutes. And then she goes out and gets on her bike and leaves. The idea that Lena was never allowed in the house is a fantasy that is not supported by the evidence, that is not supported by any of the videos. Okay, that is Mr. Young's opinion. But look at that video. You see her going in the house. You then see about an hour later, Harley coming to the house. And we know that Harley came in the house, and Harley actually went down in the basement.
I was prescribed hydrocodone at 16 when I got my 4 wisdom teeth pulled out. I can see that. Being a defense lawyer is like giving a book report for a book you never read in front of an entire courtroom. I don't know, man. That's more like what's her name again? Dr. Lewis? Dr. Lewis, what do you know about this case? Do you know about this? Do you know about this? Do you remember this? Is that your son right there?
Why do we know that? Because she changes out of her uniform before going to the dollar store. So there is nothing in there that these kids were kept out of this house, and there is nothing to indicate that this was pre-planned that would keep this type of information away from them. What is going on in her head? We don't know. But here's the important thing, and here's what Mr. Young is trying to do. He is trying to introduce antisocial personality disorder into this. Because
Okay.
I would state to you, ladies and gentlemen, there are only 2 things.
I think the prosecution, they had their own medical people. And didn't they diagnose Letecia with narcissism? What's it called? The narcissism one and like borderline personality disorder or something like that, right? If I remember correctly. Hey, Gwen, how are you doing today?
Things that account for her actions at this point in time, where the remainder of this day and the days preceding is either disassociation, where she has put that memory of this brutal attack of what she did to Gannon
Nope.
someplace that she doesn't have access to,
Nope.
and she doesn't understand what's going on or where Gannon is,
No.
or what she had done to him, or antisocial personality, or that she's some type of psychopath. Mr. Young, remember back to Dr. Torres, tried to interject many times with Dr. Torres the possibility of antisocial personality disorder, and Dr. Torres was firm. No, she does not meet the criteria for antisocial personality disorder. One, there's no past criminality with her. That's an element that you need for antisocial personality disorder. Other people with antisocial personality are unempathetic to people and don't.
Really? For anti-personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, you need to have one history of criminality. But like, what if you just committed the crime now? You know, she killed Gannon, right? Does she now have antisocial personality disorder? She technically commit a crime, right?
Don't care about people. Again, for her entire career, she was a special needs teacher, teaching kids, helping kids who have disabilities. Through her whole life, that had been her career. That is not a psychopath with antisocial personality disorder. That it could be somebody with a dissociative disorder.
Poor kids, man. If I found out that any, like, imagine being the parent of the kids and then you realize, oh my God, Letecia was their parent, was their teacher. Oh God.
Either DID
Scary.
or borderline personality disorder with dissociative features, who has kept horrible trauma in her past behind her and is trying to make the lives of kids with special needs better for them. That is somebody with empathy who does that whole thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I would put before you the strongest evidence of disassociation going on here. Look at the body-worn camera of the sheriffs when they come in that night looking for Gannon. The most horrible, brutal attack has happened before there. Gannon is in the house, in the suitcase. It has all been recently covered up. She's there with her daughter, she's there with Lena, and she's acting and presenting herself to these police, laughing, joking, being incredibly friendly.
Yeah, because she's a POS.
Just after this has happened. Because at that point in time, she has disassociated the horrible act that she has committed. There's no other logical explanation for how that she is doing that.
Oh, I think the hiking trip was supposed to be an accident too, but either backfired, couldn't get away from the others long enough. If you've seen the vid, all it would have taken is one wrong step. Ooh, possibly. Like the drunk laughing girl. You're talking about Stephanie
And when you go back
Melgoza.
and look at these timelines, ladies and gentlemen, look and go through them. What is really important during this whole time, she is not sleeping at all. For the whole time here that this is all going on, you see activity going on her phone or things that she's doing all through the night. She is in a manic situation and her mind is not working. Again, we heard Dr. Lewis talk about irrational things that she is doing that doesn't make any sense. Ladies and gentlemen, it makes no sense for somebody who is pre-planned for whatever reason, whatever motive, to brutally kill Gannon, to then report him missing right away, and then in a matter of 3 days later.
Well, she was in his he was in her care. So like if she didn't say anything, and he was missing for 1 day, 2 day, and the dad was coming back soon. That would look even more suspicious, right? If she didn't report anything, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't see Gannon last night or this morning. Oh, well, I guess I'll report him missing now.
Go into the police with a completely illogical, incoherent story. You've heard.
It's because she ain't smart, man. Listen, she didn't even, if Gannon was really missing, she would have asked the neighbors. She would have looked around, but she didn't knock on nobody's door.
Different witnesses. Ms. Stauch was an intelligent, above average intelligence woman, a smart woman, everything like that. To go in only 2 days later and sit down with the police and come up with
Find her
the
LinkedIn.
ridiculous story of Eduardo is not the actions of a sane, rational person. It is irrational belief. Even children know. If you keep saying different stories, you're not going to be believed. Even looking back at the little boy who cried wolf, which we teach children, if you keep making up things, then you're not going to believe. She changes her story, not only completely different, not only with no explanation as to really why she
Well, when a story doesn't stick, you change it, right?
made up the prior story to one that she
That
is
happens all the
changing now.
time.
But comes up with this ridiculous thing that she met this Eduardo, that he was just going to come over and fix the carpet for free. She's not even planning on paying him. That somehow he is in the garage when they get there. That he then takes her down into the basement and rapes her for an hour, and that he takes Gannon in a suitcase and leads out of the home. That are not the actions of somebody who is sane and logical. That is completely irrational to believe that that kind of thing could possibly be believed.
How would she have come up with that lie, though? If she didn't know that,
Her actions, I would say, continue to be irrational.
if she was dissociating and she didn't know that, she was the one that killed Gannon.
She keeps changing her story. She keeps giving different accounts. Gannon is placed in the suitcase, driven all the way to Florida.
Florida.
She goes through Louisiana. She goes through all kinds of East Texas, all kinds of places where people are not around, deserted areas, long areas of desolation, many places where that suitcase could have been hidden and never been found. And she goes all the way to Pensacola, Florida, and drops it off at a dry space under a bridge.
It drops it off.
Right near a major.
My understanding was she chucked it off the bridge or something.
That's not the actions of somebody who is rational, who is trying to hide that away.
Wait, why not? I feel like every time he says a sentence that he very bodily disagrees with, he takes a sip of water.
She then goes to South Carolina, and you can look at the Google searches that she performs in South Carolina. Face transplant near me. Like she's Googling for a McDonald's or a restaurant that's very close to her. That she's going to pop up, that she's going to go over there and get an entire face plant to change the way she looks. Those are not the actions of a sane and rational person. Those are the actions of somebody that is delusional. Ladies and gentlemen, I would say all of these pretext phone calls with Al are the actions of somebody who is delusional.
All right, guys, replace the word delusional and replace it with stupid. How about that?
Listen, go back and listen. Listen to those February 14th phone calls.
Is that too mean?
Listen to how her voice and tenor changes between phone calls. Listen to how her emotions switch rapidly during the phone calls with Al, and her stories switch rapidly that no sane, rational persons of overintelligence could possibly expect anybody to believe. She is freaking out, and she is delusional in the thought that anybody is going to believe all the different variations that she's trying to sell them. None of that is rational. None of that makes sense.
Man, Yellow Tie lawyer is like, oh, dude, thank God I'm not doing closing arguments. I'm just chilling here while this bitch breathes on my. Look, Letecia, she's reading the notes right now.
And so again, what then we're brought back to is why. What was going on? What preceded this? And looking, it's going to end up in the mental health experts. And I want to talk a little bit about Dr. Lewis.
Oh my God. It is Dr. Lewis, right? The one that we.
She is 85 years old. She has been doing research.
Wait, Dr. Lewis, 85 years old? Wow. Not bad, actually. I mean, yeah, she said she had a lot of I forgets, but 85 years old. I couldn't tell. I mean, it's pretty blurry and pixelated.
Research,
Jesus.
treating, evaluating people with serious mental illness for over 60 years. She's one of the foremost experts in the country.
I don't know, man. I kind of want to go back and look at Dr. Lewis's work or something. I don't know how the heck she got on this case and how she agreed and how she said Letecia has DID and Letecia didn't know right from wrong during the time of the crime.
On dissociative identity disorder. She has been published in peer-reviewed
Hi,
journals.
Holly.
well over 100 times. Things that educates other psychiatrists and things that educates other doctors.
Okay, because I'm wondering why does he keep saying face plant? I was like, face plant? Maybe because he was looking over Letecia. Was she face planting at that time?
She has authored and produced. She has done, she has the HBO documentary. They don't go just to quacks to do an HBO documentary.
They don't go to quacks to do an HBO documentary. I don't know. Let's go see who HBO has done a doc on.
They went and they did a documentary on her because she was groundbreaking in her field. Has she consulted on other stuff with Robert De Niro and so forth? Yes. Not because she's a quack, because she has explored and she knows more about this subject than almost anybody else in the country.
Yeah, but you can also be groundbreaking, but you can also be wrong. You can also be groundbreaking, and you can also maybe just lose your touch. I don't know. I'm just very confused why she thinks Letecia has DID.
Has she, in her age,
Hey, Mom
some
Bear.
of the details, the minute things in the discovery get lost a little bit in her memory? They do. And you saw that up on the stand when she was testifying. I'm not disputing that.
Okay.
But what she has is the decades and decades of experience with this, the decades and decades of dealing with people with
Poor guy. Not only does he have to defend Letecia, he's also got to go up there and defend Dr.
severe mental illness who commit heinous acts. She has that experience to rely upon, and she had 14 hours of interviews with Ms. Stauch to talk with her, to base her opinion. She had notes from family members, other types of things to show this, and in her expert opinion, is legally insane. She wanted the EEG and the MRI to possibly know if there was also organic brain damage going on here. There was some type of brain trauma that was contributing to the mental illness of Ms. Stauch. What you heard at the end is she did not need those type of things to make the diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, which she was confident on and she believes upon. Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you, do not discount her decades of experience. Do not discount her expertise, okay? The acting that, this is a woman who has pioneered this.
Too late. We totally did.
A woman who has made her life on this. A woman who has been peer reviewed over hundreds of times in different articles on this subject. Is willing to throw that all.
And you know how she did bad too if the lawyer has to go up there defending their one expert witness this hard. What are we at, like 10 minutes now?
The way to come down here at a substantially reduced fee to testify is ludicrous and it's insulting. They pay their experts just the same as we do, okay? Then that's why I asked their blood spatter expert, his fees.
Brandon.
It wasn't acting like there was anything wrong with that. It's just to show both sides hire experts, both sides pay experts.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the expert isn't getting paid doesn't mean that they are money-grubbing liars, okay? Experts in this type of thing, to come and testify, they charge money, they charge a fee. She actually reduced her normal fee to come down and help with Ms. Stauch and to do this evaluation. And what did she tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Ms. Stauch, of all the hundreds and hundreds of...
I don't know. I just kind of wonder, maybe she didn't really have much going on. And she's like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll agree to do this. I don't know. Did the prosecution already do their closing? I actually went straight to the defense. We're at the defense right now, and I was going to listen to rebuttal, because usually in rebuttal, they kind of re-summarize everything they said in the closing. But we're going to do defense, we're going to do rebuttal, and then we'll see from there.
Different mentally ill people that she has ever dealt with is one of the most mentally ill persons that she's ever dealt with. And what else is she saying? I think this is key. Pay very close attention. She's not endorsing that it was definitely Maria that did this. Mm-hmm. She's not endorsing how Maria is saying this happened. Okay. What is she saying? Ms. Stauch has, in her opinion, more than likely disassociated the memory of the homicide because she can't bear to deal with it. That was actually a very good question by Mr. Young on it.
But I guess, like, if you didn't know you had DID, doesn't a psychiatrist have to don't they have to, like, draw it out of you somehow? And then you have to get one of your identities to communicate with another identity in order to gain information from that identity? Because I want to know, how did Letecia know that Maria murdered Gannon? How did she have access to that memory if she didn't have access to it before, right? Did the doctor go through, it honestly just seems like the doctor was like, oh, you know what? You got DID. Okay, let's talk it out and let's see how you have DID, right? Not like, oh, let's talk first. And then as I'm talking to you, oh my God, maybe you have DID. Let's get access to other personalities. Like, I don't know. And they only interviewed for not even that long, right? Like, it's not like she's been the psychiatrist for Letecia for years or months, right? It was only like, what was it again? How long did they meet for? I feel like there's a lot of work that would have to be done in order to even get to the point to get access to all the personalities and stuff like that, right? Jesus. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a damn psychiatrist, but it seems like it's not easy to just be like, hey, let's summon Maria. Get Maria over here. Let's talk to Maria. Maria, she did the crime, right? She took her at face value. He just definitely saw a sucker. The doctor came in. Yes.
And I think there's a lot of validity to that.
Okay.
Ms. Stauch accepting the idea that she committed this brutal, horrible homicide in the manner that was done, smashing that 11-year-old's head in.
Also, from my understanding, Letecia was the one that said that when she talked to her lawyers, that's when she realized, that's when they all came up with, oh, you know what? It must have been me that did it. And it must have been my other personality. It was like something like that. It was like what was that interview that she did? She was talking to someone and she was like, yeah, after talking to my lawyers, that's how I realized that it was me who killed Gannon and this is me who blah, 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 but not actually me. And I was like, oh, so like, did you talk to your lawyers and this is how you guys concocted the story?
Cannot deal with it. To accept that fact in her mind would crush her, would crush her soul, would crush her
14 hours
identity.
interview.
And so she has come up with all of these delusional fantasies, trying to come up with some other thing that may have happened.
Yeah.
And listen to her voice, listen to the tenor when she's describing that. When she's hoping, when she's talking to Dr. Lewis, I can't remember if it's Dr. Lewis or Dr. Torres, about the different versions that she's given, that she was coming up in her mind, hoping and believing it was somebody other than her who did this. The facts, ladies, and we're not disputing that, ladies and gentlemen, it was her. But she was not in her right mind when she did it.
Listen, she wishes it wasn't her. Okay. She wishes it was this made up person named Maria or, non-made up person, Quincy Brown, America's Most Wanted. And where were they again? El Paso?
And you heard Dr. Lewis state that.
Anyone but
Letecia. Look at the evidence, and you can look at the other things that go around to realize that is the only reasonable, rational conclusion
Hey, David.
as to how this horrible thing happened was a psychotic break. Dakota Lowry, who, when he finally realized
The brother?
that his older half-sister actually did this, the first thing that came into his mind, based upon what he knew of his half-sister, was there had to be some type of psychotic break that had happened.
Wait, did he actually say that? You're putting words in his mouth. Because I thought the brother never said anything about Letecia having a history of, having DID.
That there could be no other explanation as to why
I think he was just really confused why she did it and how she could have done that, right?
did it, and those are people that knew her and that have grown up with her. I also want to talk a lot, or some, about Dr. Torres. And it is what is important, ladies and gentlemen, to know with both Dr. Torres, Dr. Gray, and Dr. Grimmett is none of the experts that you have heard from that did any type of
Hey,
evaluation
Jaron.
think that there's no mental illness going on here. Okay, they all agree there's some type of mental illness. They just disagree over what to call that mental illness. We have Grimmett and Torres and Gray diagnosing her with borderline personality disorder,
Okay.
which is a significant mental illness,
Yeah.
which, as you said, comes from right on the border between full-blown psychosis and a neurosis. Okay, it's the most serious of all the personality disorder, and it's so serious because there are such prominent features of psychosis that go along with it. Psychosis where people hallucinate, psychosis where people become delusional, psychosis where people stop becoming irrational. All of that stuff can come and go in people with borderline personality disorder. And it comes and goes according to DSM-5, according to Dr. Torres, according to Dr. Grimmett, when people with borderline personality disorder start to experience high stress. That is why Dr. Niederhauser was important. It was not because Dr. Niederhauser made any type of diagnosis or anything with that, but she came to Dr. Niederhauser because he was experiencing high stress and high anxiety that was causing her to be unable to perform at work. The stress and all of that was mounting. You can look at her Google searches. The Google searches leading up to this. For whatever reason, her stress in life was becoming overwhelming. She felt underappreciated. She felt like running away. She felt like leaving. She felt like this was all too much on her plate.
Yes, all this right here is the motive. Yes, keep going, Mr.
There was
Lawyer.
nobody there to help her. And you heard from
That's
Dr.
all
Torres
motive right
about
there.
how people with borderline personality disorder feel stress much different than everybody else. Things that would not be normal stressors for all of us can become extremely stressful for somebody with borderline personality disorder. And the other thing that was important that Dr. Torres, we talked about quite a bit, is that it is a lot of the same things, the same type of horrible childhood trauma, the type of trauma where you have one parent who is molesting you and another parent who won't do a damn thing about it. that can cause either dissociative identity disorder or borderline personality disorder. They both come from the exact same environment that Dr. Torres said Ms. Stauch grew up in. That type of environment is what can cause people to have borderline personality disorder, which then under periods of stress and anxiety can become psychotic. And I think one of the other things, and I think is something to look in, and it's something I want you guys to think about when you go back in that jury room, is something that Dakota Lowry said at the end. We don't know exactly all the intricacies of the trauma or the abuse that Ms. Stauch suffered. We don't. Some of that she knows about, some of that she's come to remember, some of that is locked away, some of that is hidden by other family members who don't want to admit it. But what did Dakota talk about when he was a kid and after his stepdad has died and his mom had moved on to another abusive alcoholic in the home and Ms. Stauch would come visit him? What would she do? She would leave him with knives to protect himself from something or someone. And the fact you can draw that Ms. Stauch sometimes as a kid going through that trauma either had to protect herself with some knives or fantasized about having a knife to protect her. And then you have the connection between Gannon being stabbed 18 times with a knife. Some of these things are hidden, some of these things are hard to look at, but there is that association there between what we can assume was some of the childhood trauma that Ms. Stauch suffered, how she dealt with it, and how this horrible thing happened to Gannon. And I understand that Dr. Torres didn't think she was insane, but you can't discount the fact that Dr. Torres readily admitted borderline personality disorder can be a serious mental illness. People with borderline personality disorder can suffer psychosis. People with borderline personality can become irrational. People with borderline personality disorder can disassociate things that the
Right? She should have just that's what I was saying. I was like, she had outs, man. There's no way she was like stuck in this relationship. She was able to hold a job. Her biological daughter is 17, about to turn 18 soon, about to be like independent-ish. And she could have just GTFO'd, but no. She stayed and then she murdered the little boy. It's like, get the hell out. If you can't handle it, get out. You know, if you don't want to deal with babysitting, you don't want to deal with other people's kids, you don't like your husband, you don't want to deal with his ex-wife, then get out. Just get the fuck out.
The whole person cannot deal with. And that disassociation explains all of these crazy cockamamie lies. It is a fantasy on Ms. Stauch to try to explain this horrible action that she cannot rectify in her home with. And whether you call it borderline, whether you call it DID, I think Dr. Lewis was correct. That is not necessarily the important thing. What the important thing is look at the facts overall and realize this must have been some type of psychotic action.
Dr. Lewis did say a huge truth, though. She said that Letecia killed Gannon and that Letecia is guilty of killing Gannon. But then remember when the prosecution was like, wait, so you're saying she's guilty of killing Gannon? She's like, oh, wait, no, I take the word guilty back. I shouldn't use the word guilty.
Going on with normal people, mentally healthy normal people.
It would be a different story if Letecia was in a very abusive relationship with Gannon's dad and he was like the abuser and like she was like mentally screwed and she couldn't get out and stuff like that. And then maybe she took all her anger towards the husband, towards the son, and that's when she was like mentally dissociating or something like that. Like it was something like that was happening. Maybe, you know, like, okay, maybe, you know, like she was in a really bad position. Maybe she had a mental break, but like, no, man, no. She could have just gotten out, get a divorce, leave.
Don't one day go on a hike, take smiling photos, and the next day stab a kid 18 times for no apparent reason. And no matter how much Mr. Young would like her to be antisocial personality disorder, and he would like that because that takes insanity off the table, none of the evaluators ever have diagnosed her with antisocial personality disorder. None of the diagnoses have even had the rule out antisocial personality disorder. Antisocial personality disorder is something that is always considered at the state hospital, but there are criteria, and she did not meet it. No matter how many times in different ways Mr. Young tried to act, ask Dr. Torres.
Did she react to that when her brother yelled at her? Or did she just have her head face down behind the tissue box?
About it, she was firm and said, no, that is not the diagnosis that we have given her. That's not the diagnosis that Dr. Gray gave her. It's not the diagnosis that Dr. Grimmick gave her. And it's really not the diagnosis that Dr. Lewis gave her. So all the antisocial personality disorder talk is a smokescreen. And when you take the antisocial personality this off, the only thing that explains her conduct afterwards is disassociation, is disassociating from the horrible thing that she has done, and she's trying somehow to fix this or to get out of it. The other thing that I want to talk to you, and it's important, that was very apparent with Dr. Torres, Mr. Young would like you to believe that the only time somebody is legal insane if they commit the crime and they just stay there saying, yep, it was me, I did it for these reasons. Dr. Torres and the jury instructions from the court state somebody cannot know right from wrong, but still recognize that their conduct was criminal when it occurred. And so you heard from Dr. Torres, just because somebody in a state of psychosis, in a state of insanity, commits a horrible murder and then tries to cover it up, the covering up of the murder does not preclude insanity. And she talked about how there are cases that she has had where somebody was insane who then tried to cover up the acts that they have done because they didn't want to suffer the criminal repercussions. They are not mutually exclusive. That's not coming from me. That's coming from the instructions that you have from the court.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been above and beyond in this. And we are very grateful for the time that you guys have given us, the thought that you guys have put all into this.
We're very grateful for letting us waste your time.
The sacrifice in your lives that you have made through this long, know it together insanity. We're not saying set her free. We're not saying let her go. We're not saying don't hold her
I don't know, man. What if she does get set free?
responsible. We're saying for you to take into account the mental illness that she suffered and send her down to CMHIP, where you see how it is down at CMHIP during those interviews with Dr. Torres, where she's shackled fully, where there's constraints, where it's a locked facility, and that's where Dr. Torres told you if you find her not guilty by reason of insanity, that's where she is going, where there is better life proof.
We're gonna see when there's
Is
anything
have
else.
they presented enough evidence involved here? Have they completely there when
They were
with the
towards
court-
the end now. Yep.
And so if you believe that it is possible that this occurred in a state of psychosis, your legal duty, which you were
Oh, really? The prosecution mentioned that family members want to be there for the verdict.
sworn to do, is to find her not guilty by reason.
Dude, I want to be there for the verdict too. All right, is this rebuttal now? Or are we taking a little break? All right, that is Letecia's defense. I think they are going to take a little break. And then, I
Right,
wanna
ladies and gentlemen,
listen to
the
rebuttal.
prosecution does have a right to a rebuttal, and they
Nice.
All rise for the jury, please.
Oh my God, it's Letecia. I'm gonna use the restroom really quick. All right, restroom, get up, stretch, and then let's listen to the rebuttal. Wouldn't be surprised if it's like Gannon's mom, dad, sister. Oof, I don't know if Harley's gonna be there. Probably not Harley. Got a little dog squeaker behind.
be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we will start into the prosecution's rebuttal. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the only fantasy in this courtroom is that this defendant, this stepmother who killed Gannon, has psychosis, that she was insane on January 27th of 2020.
Okay,
That is the
strong.
only fantasy that has been brought out into this courtroom. It's been brought out by this defendant. They want to talk to you about motive. We talked to some of you in jury selection about motive.
Listen, man, these lawyers are great public speakers. Terry Sanderson, his lawyers need to take some pointers from these guys. These lawyers are great public speakers. I don't know why Terry Sanderson's lawyers, sorry, I'm just going back a little bit. Terry Sanderson's lawyers were horrible at public speaking. I was like, you know what? Maybe all lawyers are really bad at public speaking, but then it's like, you gotta be good at it though, you know, to do opening statement, closing statement, you gotta start strong. You can't be sitting there reading from your script, reading all boring like. You gotta be like passionate like this guy or the other guy.
One thing you didn't hear the judge read in any of those instructions is anything about motive. You know why? It's not an element of a single crime under Colorado code. We don't have to prove motive. And yet we did anyway.
They did.
This defendant
That's what I was
hated
saying.
Gannon. You know that because she searched it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate my stepson. She has one stepson.
I
and She
believe.
hated him. She was planning to leave Al Stout, move back to the East Coast. She wanted to hurt Al. She wanted to hurt Landon, for that matter. She did, to the core.
Quick question. Landon, is Landon Gannon's biological mom? Is that who Landon is? Because I know there's a Lena, and Lena is the biological sister to Gannon. I just never knew the mom's name. I'm just assuming Landon is the mom's name. I don't know who else it would be.
They will never recover from what she did to them, ever. And you know that. Think about the time frame that we're talking about. This was no snap in time. This was not an instantaneous thing. This occurred over days. She was planning to leave a week prior to Gannon's death when she killed him. Look at the searches that we talked about on Monday when Kevin Clark took the stand. We know when she was looking to leave. We know she hated Gannon. She knows she wanted out of a marriage with Al. We know that she didn't like what Landon was up to because she would manipulate Gannon about Landon.
Okay, biological mom. Okay, just want to make sure. Thanks.
We know these things because of the evidence that we brought you. And in fact, it does prove motive. I want to ask you about why did Al leave Gannon with the defendant on that weekend? He left on January 25th, Saturday. Remember that? Why would he leave and go to Oklahoma for 2 weeks of training if he knew there was a problem with the defendant? From psychosis. Al told you the answer to that question. He would not have gone. If he had seen some problem with the defendant, he said he would not have gone. And he did anyway, because she doesn't have psychosis. He never saw a single sign from her.
She made
What he
that?
didn't know, unfortunately, he couldn't see into her heart. He couldn't see the hatred that she had for Gannon, the motive that she had to leave
Oh, I wonder if anyone's going to do a victim impact statement. That'd be really interesting to listen to.
and to hurt him to the core. He didn't know that it was all about her, even though he lived with her for some number of years. Defense wants you to speculate that the fire set off some sort of a trigger. You read those instructions while the judge was reading them to you. It says speculation, can't do it. And yet they're inviting you to speculate. Why is that? Why would they invite you to speculate when we're talking about an 11-year-old boy who was brutally murdered? Why would they invite you to speculate? Because they want you to ignore the evidence that was brought into this courtroom. They want you to ignore this evidence and speculate on the other hand. You can't do it. Saying she's freaked out in that phone call. Acting she's freaked out. We all get freaked out sometimes. As Mr. Young said, we're human. Go drive down the highway and you see an accident, you might freak out, you might have some rush of adrenaline, and it kind of messes you up a little bit. That's human. Not psychosis. And further, that freaking out that she's supposedly doing is her acting. It's not psychosis. It's all about Letecia. It's all about this woman who murdered Gannon throughout the whole thing.
Me.
The text to the school.
Sarah
To
Boone.
Leslie Hicks. That morning, January 27th. I want you to speculate again that that's some sort of a trigger. You know what it is. It's an unassailable excuse. You tell your employer that your stepfather, a member of your family, has just died in a tragic car accident. No employer is going to make you come into work that day. She needed an unassailable excuse to not go to work because she knew what was happening later that day. He knew Gannon was done that day. That's why she calls Gannon into school later or out of school later.
Sarah Boone. I haven't heard any updates with Sarah Boone, but I'm assuming she still has the same lawyer. I don't know if she ever got in contact with the lawyer yet, though.
The timelines that we brought to you on
Last
Monday
I heard, she wrote
for internet searches
a letter to the
tell
judge.
you everything you need to know about her mental condition. She was calculating, manipulating, lying to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it's about her,
Yep.
not about Gannon. Deflect the blame and make herself the victim.
That's true. She really wanted to make herself the victim because you know what? She said that Gannon went missing. Oh, that doesn't work. You know what? Okay. What happened was Gannon messed up the carpet. So I had to go out and find someone to fix the carpet. I drove around the construction lot, found like a Mexican guy and I told him to come meet me the next day. And yeah, he came in over to our house, fixed the carpet, but then all of a sudden he had a change of heart and decided to assault me. And then after when he was done, he decided to take Gannon in a suitcase. Like, what? Excuse me? Like, I don't know. She just wanted to play victim so bad. You know, I think that's why she told the employer that like her dad got ran over by a car, right? Because she probably got like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that happen. Oh my God, poor you. Poor you. Pity, 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 you know? Ugh.
Does it ever make sense when somebody kills another person? Can it ever truly make sense? Can it ever truly make sense when a parent kills a child?
True.
The answer to that is no. None of us in this courtroom, except one, has killed a child. That doesn't make it a psychotic act. That doesn't mean somebody's insane. Unfortunately, way too many people kill kids in this country. Why do they do it? Who knows? But it's not psychosis when this one did it. Be very careful when people introduce facts.
Tisha got her
Mr.
head
Tilley
down
got up here and
again.
wanted to introduce facts to you. Inviting you to speculate. Be very
Hey,
careful
Leon.
about that. He tries to brush away the effect of the hydrocodone that was found in Gannon's system. First of all, Gannon should not have had hydrocodone in his system. Dr. Ignacio told you about that. It's not typically given to 11-year-old little boys. Why not? It's an opioid. It can cause people to get sluggish, lethargic, and lead to coma, and stop you from breathing, and can kill you. All of those things that hydrocodone, an opioid, can do to you, this woman did to Gannon. Why? Because she wanted to kill him. Mr. Cellini brought up the idea that the brutality itself proves psychosis. Is that true? Does the brutality itself prove psychosis from this defendant? The evidence has the answer for you. The defendant's own actions has the answer for you. The brutality of it speaks to the abject hatred she had for Gannon and the pure determination she had to kill Gannon. This didn't start in one snap moment.
Yeah, and she hated the dad. Seems like she hated the biological mom as well. What better way to get back at them? Kill their kid. Did you guys hear about this crazy one? Oh my God. I saw a thumbnail on it. It was like so upsetting. There was this woman hauling a bucket, like on a wagon, I think. It was caught on neighborhood surveillance. And the title was Woman Kills 6-Year-Old Stepdaughter, Leaves the Bucket in Front of the Mom's House. Like I'm guessing like her boyfriend or whatever had an ex-wife that lived nearby. And I don't know, maybe it was similar to Letecia, right? Maybe the woman hated the daughter. Maybe the woman hated her current boyfriend, husband, and then wanted to get back at the ex-wife or something like that. You guys hear about that? It was crazy. It's still really new though, but it happened recently. It's like 6-year-old little girl.
When did this start?
Hey, Morden.
Sunday night. Sunday night with the candle. A candle incident that makes no sense,
Yeah, it was caught
according
on
to the way that she describes it
neighborhood
to people.
surveillance camera.
Because
Someone's
she wants
house
to make
camera
it
or
Gannon's
something.
fault.
It was so sad.
Does that make sense? Mr. Stauch told you the answer to that question. Harley told you the answer to that question. Gannon didn't play with fire. He would never go downstairs and just light candles randomly. He had a long history of having stomach issues, where he'd get backed up and then have issues with it. And yet this day, he poops himself, and so he's got to go burn a candle to mask the smell, even though he'd never done it any other time in his entire life. Does that make sense? Or does it make more sense that this defendant burnt him?
Yeah, that's what we were thinking too. I was like, get it? Like, how do you burn yourself by spilling a candle? Okay, yeah, this one right here. Oh my God, I'm sorry. There's so many ads. Jesus. Truly inhumane. Family of 6-year-old girl strangled, stuffed in chlorine drum, dumped on mom's lawn by dad's girlfriend. That's so crazy. Imagine being the mom and being like, what the hell is this bucket doing in front of my house? And you open it and then you find your kid in there. Chilling surveillance footage from a night shows a woman nonchalantly dragging a wagon with a plastic bucket on it in the direction of the house. The woman in the clip was wearing tall white boots, red top, and black pants. Landon, who also goes by Bunak Lim or Bunak Landon, has since been arrested on charges of first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and Bella's death, and is being held without bond. Senseless, heinous act has forever destroyed her family, said the aunt. No words can describe the pain that is running through our bodies. It's truly inhuman. Like, what? Like, what the hell happened? This is the monster right here. Look at her outfit. Got some cowboy boots on, dragging the bucket. It's so weird. I want to know what's up with that woman. Like, if she's had any history. Authorities say Bella's father reported his girlfriend, the youngest daughter, missing around 7:30 a.m., sparking a missing persons investigation. At some point during the search, Harahan police decided to search Jennifer's property less than two. Oh, did the police find it? Where they found the bucket with the body inside. The autopsy later confirmed that Bella, a kindergartner, has been murdered with multiple injuries. Strangulation, blunt force trauma. Jesus. Yeah, so sad. But I don't think they go much into the girlfriend yet. Motive remains unclear. Police records and divorce papers show that Landon and Bella's mother have been in a physical altercation in the past. Landon and Bella's mother. Oh, so there was definitely friction between the girlfriend and the ex-wife. Jesus. Yeah, super sad. Keep an eye on that one.
That's the start of the attack, ladies
Hi,
and gentlemen.
David.
Sunday night. And it continues with the hydrocodone. A prescription for a full-grown man is given to Gannon. That goes into the morning time. That's why he's lethargic. He can't get out of bed early like he normally would. He's walking slowly to the pickup truck at about 10:15 in the morning when they leave the house. Because he's under the influence of hydrocodone. And then she drives him around, leaving him in the car. He's probably passed out in the car. Doesn't make any sense to leave an 11-year-old boy in a car unless there's something wrong.
That's right, because I think when she went to Petco or whatever, I don't think surveillance camera showed Gannon, right? It was just Letecia by herself, like, buying things.
Something that she did to him. And this picture from Garden of the Gods. These two pictures that she sends Al Stauch that morning of Gannon in bed. Mr. Tellini again is inviting you to speculate as to the reason for those pictures, saying she's just a loving stepmother. What are those pictures? Think about that picture from Garden of the Gods in relation to the pictures that she sends Al Stauch. They're proof of life pictures. They're pictures that she is sending out.
Makes sense.
Prove to the world that she had nothing to do with what she's about to do. Why would she send pictures of Gannon in bed to Al Stauch, except for a proof of life picture? A way to cover her tracks, and it starts early, right?
What I'm curious is that I'm assuming they live in a quiet suburb area. Looks like a nice neighborhood. They have a nice new house. How did no one hear the gunshots? 3 gunshots go off. No one hears it? Or did they just assume it was fireworks or something? I'm surprised that the neighborhood cameras didn't pick that up or something, because that would probably trigger an event, right? Gunshot sounds, loud noises. That way you can try to figure out when
They want you to
exactly
think that this
it
was
happened.
some sort of a temporary snap. Said it on opening statements when Mr. Cook dramatically walks out of the courtroom, says this is way too worse, we can't handle this. It's a crack in her psychosis. And then we hear it again today from Mr. Tellini. First of all,
Mr. Cook and
temporary
Mr.
insanity
Tellini.
is not what our insanity statute is in the state of Colorado. Look at it. That does not apply here. Second of all, there's not a temporary insanity moment in this case. It starts from Sunday night and goes all the way through Monday evening. We got almost 24 hours of horror that Gannon had to suffer at the hands of this defendant. What should have been the safest place in the world for Gannon to be. People who live by stories, by telling tall tales, don't stop. Why would she stop doing that once this case started, if she'd been getting away with it her entire life? Think about the manipulation that she carried out on everybody else in her life. Al told you about the manipulation. Everything this woman did in her life was manipulation to cause chaos, to make her the victim and the focus of everything.
Yeah, possibly, because his bedroom was in the basement. That's where they believe that it happened. His room is in the basement. They believe it happened in his room, on his bed.
Every single
Maybe?
thing. Harley. She didn't know how her own father died. Because she was lied to by this defendant. Why would she stop lying when the biggest thing that she's ever caused in her life is being drilled into by an investigation that is the biggest El Paso County has ever seen? That involves the FBI. That's who she is. She's a storyteller.
She's got too much to gain by lying, okay, and having everyone believe
Telling
her.
fantastic stories is not psychosis. It's who she is. She starts looking up face plant surgery centers. She starts looking up, I need a new social security number. I need a marriage license. I need a replacement passport because El Paso County Sheriff's Office has mine. And she looks up fake polygraph.
Yes, bring up the polygraph.
Why in the world would you need a fake polygraph unless you're covering your tracks? To have some sort of thing that you can anchor a legitimate story to that you didn't have anything to do with.
Oh my God. Dude, I wish they dug up more about Letecia's past. I actually want to know what other batshit crazy things she's ever done before, because she must have done some crazy things at like her employment jobs or something like that. Like, I don't know, like schools or something. She must have told some crazy lies. Like, dude, I wish they brought in more people, but you know, that would just drag the trial on. Dude, I'm just nosy. I just want to know what other crazy shit has she done? Because this is the type of person who I don't think she's a first offender. Not that I'm saying that she's murdered someone before, but there's got to be some more crazy stories about her, man.
With this case.
Hi, Taxi.
Who thinks of that stuff except for people like this? I
What
would
are we
venture to
looking
guess
at?
that not a single one of us in this
What's a
room
picture?
ever even knew a fake polygraph website existed
True, we did not.
before now.
We did
I know
not.
I didn't.
No, yeah, we did it. I had no idea. I was like, wait, fake polygraph is a real thing? Apparently, if you go to fakepolygraph.com, it's like in Europe or something, and they can generate these like fake results for you. Oh, God.
Let's talk a little bit about Dr. Lewis.
True, Jill.
She might be a world-renowned expert. She's the only expert that they could find to bring in here to tell you that this defendant had dissociative identity disorder.
Ooh, we're about to get into Dr. Lewis now. Okay, y'all ready for this? Dr. Lewis, let's go prosecution. He's going to destroy her.
Not a single other doctor that testified here in this courtroom saw a single shred of evidence that she had dissociative identity disorder. Not a single one.
Yep.
And yet this doctor comes in and says she does have it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This doctor comes in and says she does have it, yet she doesn't even know what the definition of insanity in Colorado is. She starts throwing around words like McNaughton and other things that might apply in other states. And she said sanity could.
Well, she said that like she looked at it and then when she looked at the definition, she agreed. But when he or one of the lawyers kept like saying, so what's the definition? What's the definition? She's like, well, how about you read it to me and I'll let you know if that's what I read. And the prosecution's like, no, you tell me what it is. You go ahead, tell me what it is. That's why I thought it was really weird because like, you know, if it was like she was young and she was new to the job, new to the profession, okay, maybe I can forgive. But she's been doing it for like, what do you say, like 60 years? More than 60 years? Like she should have this down to a T. But then again, I didn't realize she was 85 years old. So maybe, you know, maybe the memory is not as great. But dude, it was pretty tough, man. Because this is like your livelihood. This is your career. Like you should have this down.
Depend on where you are, what state you're in, that kind of thing. Don't you think if she's going to come in and tell you as an expert, this defendant is insane, according to Colorado law, should know what Colorado law is, and she couldn't do it. There were a lot of I assumes, I don't knows, deflections, stories about other cases. Anytime she was pressed to justify her opinion, she couldn't do it.
Jesus.
You saw Dr. Torres in contrast to that.
Yes, we did.
She could point to specific things about her evaluation of the defendant.
I saw very little of Dr. Torres's testimony though, like very, very little. I think it was like whatever clip that either Law and Crime or Court TV had.
Compare the two.
But they didn't believe her.
The instructions that you got from the judge are your roadmap for this case. They help you determine what the law is, and you're expected to follow the law, and you apply that law to the facts in the case, to the evidence that's been piling up over the last several weeks. The presumption of innocence absolutely applies in every single criminal case. It applies in this case.
Did you guys listen to the closing argument though for prosecution? This is the rebuttal right now, but did you listen to the closing argument? Is it the same as the rebuttal? Is it very similar?
Until you are determined that the charges have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, she has the presumption of innocence. We have the burden of proof. This system doesn't work if you don't hold us to our burden of proof. We expect you to hold us to our burden of proof. We welcome you to hold us to our burden of proof. Mr. Tellini talked about proving it without a doubt. Proving this case without a doubt.
It was the older
You'll never
attorney. I
see
saw
words
him
like that in
earlier.
any jury instruction in the state of Colorado or in the United States. You don't have to prove cases beyond all doubt. You have to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt. Because this is, after all, a human function. Nobody can ever prove anything 100%. Johnny Cochran, after the O.J. Simpson, or in closing for the O.J. Simpson case.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to represent Johnny Cochran.
It's not commenting on evidence.
I'm sorry,
It's not commenting on it. There's no evidence of what Johnny Cochran did at any point in time. So,
I'm actually using it to talk about the burden of proof, Judge.
well, then rephrase it.
Well, I was about to. So in that case, Johnny Cochran said, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. What he's talking about is our burden of proof. And he was absolutely right. If a case is not proven beyond a reasonable doubt, your jobs as jurors, according to these jury instructions, is to find a defendant not guilty. And we expect you to do that. If we didn't prove the case, then hold us accountable and find her not guilty. But if we did prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, the jury instructions are also very clear on that. If we have proven the case beyond a reasonable doubt, the jury instructions tell you, you should find her guilty. If the crimes fit, you should convict. That's what the jury instructions say.
I watched a licensed psychiatrist who watched the defense doctor, Dr. Lewis, and was just shaking her head. Oh, really? Are they a YouTuber? That would be really interesting to watch. In Dr. Lewis' defense, she had a grown-ass son to look after who goes everywhere with mommy. You know, I thought maybe Dr. Lewis just needed like extra help or something like that. And her son is like willing to like help her navigate around and something like that. I don't know. But yo, man, the son was like, you know, up supposedly in the staircase smoking weed. And then we got reprimanded for it. He was like, you know what? I'll just go to the other staircase. No one's going to catch me. And the judge is like, we're going to catch you. Okay, you go on camera. Can anyone give me a heads up of what happened in court today? So they're done. We were doing closing arguments. So prosecution does a closing argument, defense does closing argument, and then right now we're listening to the prosecution rebuttal. After that, they send the jury, and we're actually in jury. The jury's they're deliberating right now.
And that's the other side of the coin from Johnny Cochran's comment.
Deliberating.
If the crimes fit this defendant, convict her.
That's what people were saying. Apparently, there were like people that were actually at the courtroom that were tweeting saying that like her son reeked of weed. I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt, I guess. The judge doesn't call out who it is. He just
Deliberations are up to you.
he's
you
like
get back
he did one of those speeches where it's like, I know who you are, mother effer. I won't say it out loud, but you know who you are. We know who you are. We got you on camera, and stop doing it, okay?
To the deliberation room. You get to control how that deliberation goes. The only requirements are that you all have to be together when deliberations are happening. You have to do it in the jury room. But you can take as long as you want, and you can be as fast as you want to come to a conviction or to a decision. Nobody's ever going to second guess you. If you take 2 weeks or 10 minutes, it's up to you. What we do know, what you should know from the evidence, that there's plenty of evidence to find this defendant guilty based on the evidence, not from what I say or what Mr. Young says, or find her not guilty because Mr. Tellini and Mr. Cook say so. The evidence guides you. Let's talk about that question of sanity. It says, so diseased or defective in mind to be incapable of distinguishing right from wrong. Can this defendant distinguish right from wrong? The evidence and her actions tell you that she can.
I know, right? He's being too nice. Please, please, please. Not 2 weeks. Not 2 weeks. That's too long.
Do all the things she did if she didn't know what she had done was wrong. Or she suffered from a condition of mind caused by mental disease or defect that prevented her from forming a culpable mental state. What is evidence of that culpable mental state? As Mr. Young said, it's in Gannon. It's on Gannon's body. The evidence that Gannon's body provides you The story that tells about what she did shows she has the ability and had the ability to form the appropriate culpable mental state. You don't stab an 11-year-old 18 times, 11 of which are on his arms and hands as he's defending himself, unless you intend to kill him.
Oh God! And when they were asking Dr. Lewis about this, like, okay, so did she know right from wrong, and was she intending on killing him when she stabbed him 18 times? Well, yeah, I can't really say, I can't really agree to that. I mean, she probably thought she was like in danger or something. Yeah. Okay, well, what about when she stopped stabbing him and then she went and got a blunt force item to bash his skull in 4 times? Well, I can't say that she had the intent on killing him, And then he's like, okay, well, what about when she went to grab the gun? Well, it was just like, oh my God, this is so bad. This is so painful to watch. That's what people were saying. People think it was a son.
Dispose of that knife that's never recovered.
We don't know for sure. Just what people on
And
Twitter
hit him
were
over the
saying.
head with such viciousness 4 separate times that it cracks his skull open, unless you intend to kill him. And that blunt force object, also never found.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't retrieve a handgun, a 9mm handgun, and squeeze that trigger 3 intentional times, hitting Gannon 1 time, unless you intend to kill Gannon. That's exactly what this defendant did. And that's how you know she could form the appropriate culpable mental state. This woman doesn't have a diseased mind. She has no psychosis. Multiple doctors and longtime family friends and family members answered the question of psychosis for you. This defendant knew then and knows today the difference between right and wrong. Harley said it. Dakota Lowry said it. Al Stauch said it. Every single person that knew her knew she knew the difference between right and wrong. She was of sound mind, informed the culpable mental states required. You learned about dissociative identity disorder from at least 2 different doctors in this case. Extremely rare. Prevalence in society is roughly 1.4%. But most importantly, it's marked by severe behavioral health symptoms that would be noticeable by others. Other people like Harley Hunt, her daughter who lived with her every day of her life. Al Stauch, who was married to her for 5 years.
The brother.
Dakota Lowry, who was her younger brother. These people would have noticed that she had something wrong with her. The forensic nurse examiner, Amanda Van Ness at the hospital, would have noticed it. This is 2 days after Gannon is murdered, and the defendant fakes that panic attack in the sheriff's office and is taken to the hospital.
Wait, is this when she does the panic attack and then she like tries to run away or something? I think she actually did run away successfully. They take her to the hospital and then she like dips out.
Given the opportunity to be examined for the supposed rape story that she had.
Oh, that's right. 2 days after, this is when she comes up with the news story. She said that she was assaulted, and then they're like, okay, well, let's take you to the hospital. Let's get you examined, let's go. And then she gets there. I think she like does a panic attack thing, and I think she like escapes. Isn't it crazy? How the hell did she escape? Who was on duty watching her?
And she splits. Amanda Van Ness told you that she's dealt with people with severe mental health disorders. She's told you what happens when she deals with people like that. Called an M1 hold. It's an emergency situation where you put somebody in care for a period of time because they're a danger to themselves or to others. Amanda Van Ness saw no sign that this defendant was anywhere close to justifying an M1 hold on January 29th. Dr. Niederhauser, on the other side of this equation, about a month before Gannon was killed, the last medical professional to see the defendant before Gannon was killed, also familiar with M1 holds, and saw no signs that would justify holding her against her will because she was a danger danger to herself or others. Because she wasn't. She didn't have psychosis. Why blame others? First, it's Gannon's fault, right? He pooped all over himself, started a fire. He's experimenting with drugs. Isn't that convenient that he's experimenting with drugs? He's curious about bath salts. And there's a Swisher Sweet planted in his backpack.
There's a what? Bath salt and Swisher Sweet planted? There's a what now? Wait, what did he say? Do you guys understand?
Drugs. He's curious about bath salts. And there's a Swisher Sweet planted in his backpack.
I have no idea.
And he's got hydrocodone in his system. Isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient concoction from this defendant? Then she says he
Oh, Swisher Sweet. It's a cigar. So he was smoking cigars. He was lighting up candles. He was taking hydroxycodone.
went to a friend's house and didn't come home? Or is it because he loved his mom too much? He was a mama's boy. Is that the source of her hatred for Gannon?
Yeah, I can
He
see
knew
that.
she could never replace the love that Gannon had for Landon. And she concocts Eduardo, some random Mexican guy that works at the housing development. Just gives him access to the house through the garage code. He comes in, fixes the carpet.
Oh my God.
But in addition to fixing the carpet, he rapes her. Bangs her head on the floor. No sign of injury on her. Curiously asks for boxes.
And don't forget. She decides to clean up the scene, okay? The guy comes in, assaults her, steals Gannon, and her first reaction, clean the scene and tell the police, oh, well, Gannon was playing with his friends. I don't know where he went. Does that make sense?
In a suitcase. Why'd she have to introduce the suitcase? Had to explain away why Gannon was going to be found in the suitcase she put him in. A suitcase that Al Stauch recognized when he was shown the picture. A suitcase that Dakota Lowry recognized this defendant struggling with before she drives off to Florida. We had to explain it away. Next, it's Quincy Brown's fault.
The most
You heard Special
guy.
Agent Jonathan Grusing. He talked about he wishes he would have pushed her more on the Quincy Brown and let her expand on that character. Because this is the character she gave the most information about. It's a real guy. Guy that was published in the media. The most wanted people in El Paso County for sex offenses. Perfect fall guy for what this woman did.
Have they caught him yet? Is Quincy Brown still at large?
He replaces Eduardo as the rapist. Knew his name when his ID fell out conveniently and landed on the floor in front of her. Then he turns into a guy up in northern El Paso County selling a bike. Or he's laying in the road as they're driving and gets into the car and forces them to come back home and he rapes her there. Or Gannon's test
forgot
riding a
about
bike,
that.
crashes, hits his head, and then he takes off with Gannon.
Dude.
Uncle Matt,
I forgot about all these little variations of the story.
the least
Oh my
descriptive
God.
person in any story this defendant has probably ever told. Boy, can she tell some stories, can't she?
Listen, okay, the son was probably just stressed out that his mama was doing so bad on the stand, so he had to relieve himself by smoking marijuana in this case. I'm just kidding.
Somehow Gannon knew him and he was involved, but we don't really know how. And then it's the pregnant lady with the cash baby. Supposedly 8
what?
months pregnant, involved with money laundering for Mexican restaurants, gets into the
What?
car, starts pulling money out of her belly.
What?
Somehow she's involved with what happened to Gannon.
Wait, I did hear about that story actually.
Pointing outward, right? Pointing anyway, except for her. Except that in each one of these stories, the blame for Gannon's disappearance is someone else, and she's
Kind of reminds me of the first episode of Cowboy Bebop. Remember the chick that was pregnant, but then she like had those like the red eye drugs in her belly and she really wasn't pregnant? Oh God, what a strong first episode. It's so good. I think the scar was originally to be used as like why the fire started. He was down there smoking. I didn't hear that story either. Yeah. Dude, I heard about the one where she said that she was driving. Quincy Brown's body was laying in the middle of the road. She got to see what's up. And then he came and like kidnapped him and then drove back to the house or something. I heard about that. I heard about the bike incident that Gannon was riding, hurt his head or something like that. But no, I did not hear about the what was it? The cartel pregnant lady or whatever it was.
the victim in every single one of these stories. Figuring out a way to cast blame elsewhere and situate herself as the victim as to what happened. That's a very calculated move. Every single time she does it, she's doing it to explain away why pieces of evidence are found in the case. She knows about the suitcase is going to be found. She
That's
notices
true.
that we're searching up in northern El Paso, southern Douglas County, where the board is found. So that's when the bike story comes in with Quincy Brown up in that area. She's got to explain away why her GPS is going to show her up in that area. Just up there innocently looking for a bike. But Gannon's blood is going to be found up there. Got to explain it away. Landon's fault. This is the most cruel of all.
The pregnant story was actually a real story from her area. Same with the Quincy story. That's why she used them. Oh, the pregnant one's a real thing. She was pregnant with twins during interrogation. Wait, what? Then the vampires got involved. Yeah, Edward Cullen came into her life and swooped her away. She could have just written fiction novels because of her imagination is wild.
All right. That somehow Landon is responsible for Gannon because of her ex-husband.
Wait, sorry. Do you guys remember the lady who there's an author who writes like she wrote a book of like how to kill your husband, and then she actually went to trial for killing her husband. Do you guys remember that? What was the outcome of that? Guilty or not guilty? I didn't really follow it. I just heard about it. I just thought it was really like crazily ironic.
Landon's fault. This is the most cruel of all, right? That somehow Landon is responsible for Gannon because of her ex-husband. That somehow Landon is involved with Gannon ending up in Mexico.
That's right. She tried to blame the biological mom.
Why would she introduce the word Mexico? Because by the time she's saying this, she's already pitched Gannon over that bridge in Florida, thinking it's pitched over into the Escambia River that flows out the bay and into the Gulf of Mexico. It's Al's fault. His fault that Gannon is gone and he should be investigated. Somehow he contaminated the scene.
She blamed the dad?
Another cruel twist of the knife. Going after the people that Gannon loved the most and who loved him the most.
Dude, she wishes she can pin the murder on her husband and his ex-wife because I bet you she hated them so much. Jeez.
Shows you the hatred that she had for these people. The hatred that she had for Gannon and how she's going to use Gannon's horrific demise against the people that loved him the most. Her stepfather, James, supposedly sexually assaulted her as a kid. It's his fault that she's the way she is.
I wonder if she took that out of the Casey Anthony book or something.
But there's not a shred of evidence from anybody until she starts raising competency that she ever suffered any sort of ill harm by James. She never reports it to a single person for over 20 years. And yet that's the trigger. Does that make sense? There's a caped invader's fault. It's the last one, right? Standing on top of the bed, wearing a cape. Then realize,
Damn it, Batman. She said she was pregnant with twins. She blamed Allison. He owed the Mexican mafia money. Made a bad decision.
it's Gannon, but she shoots him and stabs him and does all these other things to cover up for whatever. Does that make any sense? Or is this just another concoction? Another way to point outwards on blame and show herself as the victim? When she realizes those external sources aren't working, Dr. Dorothy Lewis comes into play. Before she looks at a shred of evidence, in February of 2022,
Dr.
she's already
Patrice
said, yeah,
Berry? Okay,
you need to go with not guilty by reason of insanity. Dissociative
Melissa.
identity disorder is the answer.
Oh.
Doesn't know a single.
Sorry. Okay, now we're going back to Dr. Lewis again. Let me remind y'all about Dr. Lewis here. I got some more.
There's a caped invader's fault. It's the last one, right? Standing on top of the bed, wearing a cape, then realizes it's Gannon, but she shoots him and stabs him and does all these other things to cover up for whatever. Does that make any sense? Or is this just another concoction? Another way to point outwards on blame and show herself as the victim? When she realizes those external sources aren't working, Dr. Dorothy Lewis comes into play. Before she looks at a shred of evidence, in February of 2022, she's already said, yeah, you need to go with not guilty by reason of insanity. Dissociative identity disorder is the answer. Doesn't know a single thing about this case or this defendant in February of 2022.
Is that true?
And so what does this defendant do but start creating names? There's Taylor, Harmony, Christina, Jasmine, the frisky princess.
Jasmine, the frisky princess? You know how Princess Jasmine Aladdin? Oh my God. Letecia said the pregnant belly lady sent her in to do money laundering. She didn't want to do it, but she would end the existence of an innocent boy. Hey, Madame August Butterfly, how are you doing today? Why do people put weed in cigars? Isn't it difficult to put weed in there? I don't know. Maybe like the taste of it or something. It's like sweet, right? Or something on the outside. I don't know.
Letecia and Maria Sanchez. Spanish-speaking Russian sniper. Knows how to kill, kill, kill. One thing
a Spanish-speaking Russian sniper? Oh my God. I remember you guys were talking about like Spanish accent and then like Russian accent, but it's a Spanish-speaking Russian sniper. What movie is that from? Can someone tell me? The Frisky Princess. I want that nickname now.
we do know from this evidence This defendant knows how to kill. Knows how to kill a defenseless little boy in his bed. There's better words to describe this defendant and what she did. Unreliable. Every person that she's ever...
Man, I hope she has a very, 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 very uncomfortable prison sentence. I wish her all the UTIs back to back, back to back, back to back, back to back upon her with no access. We'll fine. Give her access to antibiotics, but because she's had UTIs so often, now that she's antibiotic resistant, the antibiotics don't work for her, and she's gonna have to suffer with UTI.
interacted with in her life.
Give her the UTI.
To tell you that she's unreliable, that she tells tall tales. She hated Gannon.
Back pain.
You know that because of the injuries that Gannon suffered. You know that she hated Landon and Al. Why take away their little boy the way she did and concoct the story she did unless she hated them just as much as she hated Gannon? She planned this. A week before Gannon goes missing, she's already looking at renting a U-Haul and places to live in Florida. Sometime prior to Gannon's death, she searches, "I hate my stepson." Premeditated this thing.
Spushin.
You know that from the proof of life photos. Those two pictures that she sends to Al on the morning of January 27th. She's setting up her excuse. Portraying Gannon as experimenting with drugs when she knows that she's drugging him with hydrocodone. She burned him Sunday night when this all starts. Gannon didn't play with fire. Not going to intentionally burn himself. In that first story about the candle incident, she talks about taking the kids outside and then having to go back downstairs to get Gannon. They all pile in the truck and drive off.
Wait, what? Okay, I didn't hear about that part. I heard that, like, Gannon spilled the candle. There was a fire somehow. I don't know. I'm about to experiment really quick. Let me light up a candle and let me just flip it over to see if it actually will, like, sort of fire. I feel like the wax just spills out. But a fire? Fire? And then also all I heard was that, like, she put, like, a blanket on top of it and the house got really smoky or something. I'm like, would it really get smoky from that? You think she was trying to, like, I don't know. She's trying to burn the house down or something? There's a candle accident she talks about, taking the kids outside. I didn't hear about this part. Okay.
In that first story about the candle incident, she talks about taking the kids outside and then having to go back downstairs to get Gannon. They all pile in the truck and drive off.
I didn't hear that.
That never happened.
Oh, okay.
This was just a story that she had to explain away because the fire didn't work. Gannon didn't die from the fire.
So they think that she was possibly trying to kill him with fire?
Then poisoned him with the hydrocodone. That didn't work.
Oh, I wonder if she tried to light Gannon's, like, blanket on fire. Because she did say that she threw the blanket on the fire, and maybe she'll explain how the blanket, like, was burnt. Right? The wax just spills out. Does anyone do this on YouTube? Video of someone spilling candle. Let me see. What happens if you spill candle? Where does the candle wax go? No. Yeah, I feel like it just...
This is how to remove a candle.
Yeah.
This is how to remove a candle wax spill.
Okay, it's not lit, but I feel like if it was, it would just be like, this would be lit, right? And then when you spill the candle, well, sometimes the wax will go over these little stickies and then, like, the fire would just go out. It would just be like this.
Carpet.
That's not even a big deal.
What you'll need to do this is a
How would it... Oh, wait. How do you clean a candle wax from a
clothing
carpet?
iron and some brown paper bags. Cut the paper bags into strips about as wide as the wax spot. Place the end of the paper strip over top of the wax, cover it with the iron on a low heat setting, then slowly
Wait, no, this is too time consuming. I don't like this.
pull the paper strip out from under the iron. Keep repeating this step with new strips of paper until the paper strips are no longer absorbing any wax.
What? This is too time consuming. Is there a faster way to do this?
To expose any iron once again.
I don't know if I would... Oh my God, I would probably burn the carpet by doing this. I'm not doing that. Delete the searches when done, Corgi. Dude, I've searched a lot of weird stuff because of like trial stuff, okay? I forgot what we searched recently that was like, it looks really bad, but I can explain, okay? I'm doing research for trial stuff. I'm just curious to know how it works. I forgot what I searched recently. But you guys were there. You guys were my live witnesses. You guys are all co-conspirators.
Remember, Gannon was a
Replace the carpet.
1 pound, 6 ounce little boy when he was born. Overcame all the odds. But he couldn't overcome this one. But he sure did try, didn't he? She attacked him, stabbing him 18 times. Like I said, most of those are on his arms and hands because he's fighting back.
Oh my God, that sounds so painful.
Beat him over the head 4 times with some blunt object that's never found, cracking his skull like an eggshell.
Wait a second. Didn't they say that they never recovered the Nintendo Switch? Or didn't they say they couldn't find the Nintendo Switch? Do you think she beat his head with a Nintendo Switch? I mean, Nintendo Switch is pretty, it's made out of crap, man. I don't know if you guys ever touched a Nintendo Switch before. It's pretty crappy. It's like a plastic piece of crap thing. I feel like it would just fall apart, but if I remember correctly, I thought they didn't find the Nintendo Switch. Because I feel like if she beat Gannon with something, the dad would be like, hey, we're missing something in this house. The baseball bat, I don't know, something heavy, maybe some weights or something like that. You think she pawned it? I don't know. Now I'm starting to think maybe she beat him with a Nintendo Switch. Can Nintendo Switch crack a kid's skull, though? Okay, we're not searching that, but yikes. Never recovered the firearm. I heard that the blunt force object wasn't recovered and the knife. I wasn't sure about the firearm. Someone said that it was like the family firearm and maybe they recovered it, but I have no idea.
Shot him in the jaw, severing his spine, and likely killing him instantaneously. She then manipulated the heck out of this investigation with her stories. Her stories and manipulations of this investigation caused it to be the biggest investigation in El Paso County history. I heard that from several different investigators involved in this case.
Oh, she could have beat him with the gun. I guess it has a bit of half. I guess like the screen portion, right? Definitely not the controllers because the controllers are crap.
And it stretched from Colorado Springs all the way to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She hid Gannon's broken, dead body in a suitcase in that storage room. She ran from cops when the circle was tightening. Remember that trip to Marshall's? When the cops are going there to get cell phones and get the car that belonged to Harley? And they encounter her out in the parking lot. She takes off running. As soon as she sees those guys, she takes off running, throws the keys across the parking lot, starts yelling at Harley, don't say anything. Why? If she didn't know she had done something wrong, why? Then fled to Florida and then eventually South Carolina, get as far away from this thing as she possibly could. That's why she's wanting to get a replacement passport so she can escape the country. She dumped Gannon's body over the bridge.
The Switch was never found.
Mr. Young talked about this.
Well, like when you sell things to GameStop, they like take your ID and stuff. So, I wonder if the cops did go to GameStop to see if Letecia ever sold anything to them.
Think about how divine intervention plays a part
Hey,
here.
Joe.
Macon Ponder had been at that bridge a month and a half before then. Gannon's body doesn't get found for at least 2 years, if ever. She murdered Gannon. January 27, 2020. She murdered Gannon. This little boy deserves so much more out of this defendant. He deserved protection. He deserved to live.
Does anyone know if Gannon's family or father has been in the courtroom? I feel like I wouldn't be able to sit in the courtroom, man. I don't know. That's so tough. That's so tough, especially seeing Letecia like sitting there with her head down, acting like she doesn't care. Oh my God. Professor Plum. Who was Professor Plum? Who were the characters in Clue again? There was one like hot, like, Scarlet, right? Miss Scarlet. And then there was one that was a maid. I think she was really hot too. It's like using rolling paper, just a thicker, plus you can get the flavors. Did I see the interview with Al right after he was granted a divorce? They mentioned the guns. No, I didn't watch that. Both parents have been there the whole time, I think. Oh my God, it's gonna be so tough.
He deserved to grow up and become a young man and someday have a family of his own. She took it all away.
And we're going to talk to 911 to the feedback location of the emergency. Well, just the in Linden Drive, Colorado Springs. Please say that one more time. Make sure I have it there correctly.
Sorry, they're playing speakers in the courtroom. Whenever they do that, the audio just doesn't pick it up. It's really, really bad.
Katie, how can I help you?
It's just basically, I'm assuming it's an
Hi, yes. I called 911, and they said I had
911 maybe?
to call this number because I let you know if I was supposed to come on the exit.
Maybe a 911. I think it's a 911 call. I think we heard bits and pieces before.
Is unable to do so or engages in this conduct, him or her.
Yep, that's about it. That's about it. They're on jury watch right now. You know what? The closing argument is 1 hour long. I kind of want to watch it, you know? Let's see what he says. Maybe he'll say some things that this guy doesn't say. I'll probably hop around a little bit. So he's the one that does the closing argument. Today, when I started my stream, I started with the defense closing argument, and then I listened to the rebuttal. Let's go back to closing argument. Oh, also, someone mentioned there's an interview that Al did. Is there a link to that by any chance? Find it. Al Stauch interview. Oh, it's just a family.
How do I describe my G-Man, my Gannon? Gannon's my hero. I love him so much. He's not only my hero, he has multiple people that call him his hero as well. He has so many family members that just look up to him at such a small age. He's full of life. He's happy. He's energetic. He loves sports. He loves Sonic. He loves going outside, playing with his friends, his sister, his neighbor, especially Braden. This neighborhood basically gives you a true example of who my son is. Everybody coming together, all the smiles that people have. This is why I have.
Oh my God. Wait, how long ago was this? February 5th, 2020. So this is when they haven't found the body yet. But I'm sure they probably think Letecia did at this point, right?
Have hope because I feel it. This is Gannon truly speaking to our community. Gannon he loves blue, he loves Sonic, he's into coding, he loves riding his bicycle with his sister, and I know that he's missing that right now. He holds his job as being Big Bubba very important, and for him not to be able to talk to his sisters has to be hurting him. This week has been awful. It's been more than a roller coaster ride. It's been more than emotional mess. I don't even have answers for my feelings other than I'm afraid. I'm afraid that I will never hear his voice, that I'll never hear him run and say, "Mommy," that I'll never hear those corny jokes that he always tell every single day. He has to tell me a joke. He looks forward to telling me something silly. And I'm afraid that I may never see that again or hear it. I don't want to believe that because that means that I'm giving up hope, and I'm not giving up hope because my son is full of hope. So I'm urging anyone that has any leads, credible leads, if you're too afraid because you know something, a kid just doesn't disappear and no one sees him. It's not how this works.
Man, I wonder if she ever got to confront Letecia or talk to Letecia. Like, where's my kid? What happened?
So if you have anything that's credible, if you're afraid, don't worry about it. Imagine my son, how afraid he is. Imagine how afraid Gannon is. So please call, please write. If you need to have someone else to do it for you, please do.
Oh, that's so sad. The interview that you guys were talking about, it was after he was granted the divorce. This one? Which interview is it? This one?
Our top story tonight. It's been exactly after
Heard from his held on to something more.
Obviously, we know what the worst news is, but the best news is that justice will be served. And I'll make sure that justice is served because my boy did not deserve any of this that has happened to him.
The answer no one wanted to hear.
It's hard to imagine a day, so.
Damned. And while words can't sum up his son,
Love is one. I mean, he just was full of love.
there are words he wishes he could say to Gannon one more time.
It would be the same thing that I told him every day. You know, I love you. Don't get off the bus without your sister. That's what I would say to him. The same thing, because that's what I miss.
Something no
Let this overtake us, but we're still here and still going.
with his memories frozen in frames.
As we look around, we got pictures on the wall and stuff, and you know, sometimes it's hard to see those.
And as time ticks on, he finds strength in his daughter.
Making sure she's able to make it through this.
I love you.
Me too.
Love, a force that lasts long after tragedy.
I don't really want to focus on what we've been through, but just our gratitude and appreciation. I can't express enough the thanks for what.
Jeez, that's crazy. It's been like 3 years. 3 years. And the trial, of course, just opens a whole can of worms all over again for the family. That's so tough. I like what the judge says at the end. Was it at the end of the rebuttal?
And apply the facts of this case to the law that you now have been given.
All right, so he's going to just do a little bit of intro. I'm going to speed it up a little bit to
She fires that handgun 3 times.
right around here.
I don't know how those bullets stayed in the pillow. We can rack our brain for ages. I don't know how those bullets stayed in that pillow. I don't know that we'll ever know how those bullets stayed in that pillow. What matters is the bullet that went into Gannon. The bullet matched the gun really she used that was still in the house. He attributed to Quincy Brown using, or Eduardo using, or whatever story of the day it was. Judgment, reflection, location of gunshot wound. Let's talk about make and ponder a little bit. Because as he drives to Florida, she checks in at about 12:22 in the morning, just after midnight.
Thanks, Mama Bear.
Pensacola, Florida. Why do they drive all the way from Decatur in one night to get to Florida? Why did she want to get rid of Gannon's body in Florida? Gulf of Mexico. You drive this bridge at night, as Macon Ponder testified to, there's no lights on it. We know that sometime between, well, probably between 4 in the morning to 5 in the morning, she's out there. Look at the location where the body was found with the red arrow on People's Exhibit 63. More importantly, look at the space that she has to park this vehicle. I don't know where the pointer is, but you
Right
see.
behind you. It's right there on the window.
Okay, thanks. You can see the shoulder here, and there's plenty of room. Why does she park there? Because she can. 4 in the morning, there's no traffic out there. Does she think there's water underneath the bridge? Is that illogical thinking as you're crossing the bridge and you can't see anything? You cross a main waterway, the Escambia River, and you continue going until you find a place to stop. She probably had to wait that there was no traffic. It's with the body. Did you ever think the body was going to be found again? Go to the next slide. You see the suitcase underneath the bridge. And as Macon Ponder testified, it was where he and his coworker found it. It was clearly someone who dropped it directly over the bridge. There was an imprint that you remember seeing pictures of, and they ended up dragging it under the bridge, not knowing what the contents were. More importantly, not smelling anything. Why is that important? Harley didn't smell anything. The body had been out here since February 4th. This is now March 17th in Florida heat.
Ooh.
They didn't smell anything until the suitcase was open. That lends some credibility to Harley when she says she never smelled or never knew the suitcase was back in the back of the van. Anyway, they dump it out and they see the probably the most horrific thing anybody can ever see in their lives: Gannon's body in a fetal position, decomposed, wearing the same clothes that he was wearing January 7th, 2020. She killed him. Pants in a white stripe. Watch the video when they leave. See him wearing sweatpants with a white stripe. Talk about that more later. Let's talk about the law, okay? And as I go through the law, I'm going to later kind of go through the timeline of events. And I would like you to think about the mental states and sanity as I talk about those. So I'm going to talk about the law first. The first instruction I have up here is the elements of the crime of murder in the first degree after deliberation. You will see that most of these elements are not in dispute. That the defendant, not in dispute. In the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged, not in dispute. After deliberation and with intent, those are highlighted because those are the culpable mental states that are attached to that crime. Those are the culpable mental states in the insanity the definition that we're talking about. So I want to highlight those in a second. To cause the death of a person other than herself, cause the death of a person.
Wait, I just found a handwritten complaint from Letecia Stauch complaining about some of the conditions in jail and some other stuff. Oh my God, hold on. We have to read this.
Gannon. Those are not in dispute either. And number 7 is the issue in the case. That's the insanity defense. We're going to talk about in a minute. We can go to the next elements. After deliberation, not only intentionally, but also that the decision to commit the act has been made after the exercise of reflection and judgment concerning the act. An act committed after deliberation is never one which has been committed in a hasty or impulsive manner. Now, some of you,
Yeah, something about kosher food. Hold on, I'm going to go a little bit.
but let's talk about what knowingly is, because that's the culpable mental state with this crime. Person acts knowingly or willfully with respect to conduct or to circumstance described by statute. This part is what's critical. It says
He's just going over the thing really quick.
an abnormal mental condition. Also, Dr. Torres said, no, it's not a severe mental disease. It's not something that affects her everyday life, that affects her ability to make decisions.
Yes, taxi.
No evidence of psychosis during that evaluation either. No history of inpatient treatment during that evaluation. Psychological testing. MMPI-2, remember that test? What does that test tell you and told Dr. Torres and Dr. Gray?
Still makes me question Harley. Dead bodies stink horribly. There's no way the EC blocked the smell. Well, he just said that the workers, they didn't smell anything when they pulled up the suitcase, right? It was until they opened it up, and that's when you could smell the decomposing body.
She exaggerates.
But I don't know. Maybe the suitcase is just really air sealed tight. I don't know. Unless is it a cloth suitcase? If it's like a hard case, I could see it. But cloth suitcase, yeah, I don't know. It probably wouldn't smell. But
Psychiatric, to the point where even people who are hospitalized for their mental illness don't answer questions that way. You think she might be faking it?
yeah.
Now we go to the second competency evaluation with Dr. Grimmett. Now, remember how Dr. Grimmett became involved in this case? The defense at the time, and it wasn't these defense attorneys, requested that she do the evaluation of the second competency evaluation. We had nothing to do with that. So now this happens on December 22nd, 2020. That's when Dr. Grimmett talks to her. And so I want you to think about how it's progressed now. Now she starts talking about dissociative identity disorder and bipolar disorder. When I say she, the defendant. That's what the defendant is telling Dr. Grimmett. She says she has 4 distinct personalities.
Hey, doctor, I know you're here to diagnose you, but don't worry, I got you. I did your job for you. I diagnosed myself. I have DID. Da 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 da. Like, oh my God, Letecia, you're so smart, Letecia. Wow.
None of those 4
So
were Maria
smart.
Sanchez.
You need to
You
go
know
to
what Dr.
medical
Grimmett
school.
testified to? That she was, first of all, creating these names. Second of all, like Jasmine was a Disney character.
Jasmine, the frisky princess.
Talked about vampires. Twilight.
Twilight, yo.
I've seen the movie Twilight. I know I hate admitting that, but I've seen it. And she cited the characters from that movie. And Dr. Grimmett said, wait a minute here. You're just telling me characters from a movie? That's not dissociative identity disorder. But she evaluated her for it because that's what she's telling. Dr. Grimmett evaluated her for DID. Said, no, not there. I don't even need more information. I don't need to rule it out. Not there.
That's so
She also
funny.
diagnosed the defendant with other specified personality disorder with borderline and narcissistic features.
Oh, borderline with narcissistic features. Okay, that's what it was.
She also told you that it doesn't fit that definition.
Oh my
Jump
God,
forward to February
no.
2022. I don't know when the conversation took place, but at some point before the defendant pled not guilty by reason of insanity on February 11th, 2022, they had a conversation, the counsel had a conversation with Dr. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Dr. Lewis testified that I recommended you change your plea to not guilty by reason of insanity.
Mm.
Why is that important? Why did I ask her about that? I think that put a little pressure on her.
Wait, Dr. Lewis was the one that said it, not the lawyers? Textbook narcissist. She got diabetes. What was the brand of the briefcase that all the drug traffickers used back in the 80s? They were airtight. The drugs couldn't smell them. She has a doctorate from the internet.
She says, I recommend you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, and I'll do the evaluation. Why didn't she do the evaluation right away? Why'd she wait till November? Come out and talk to the defendant.
Wait, that is kind of weird. So she told the lawyers to do not guilty by reason of insanity. But wouldn't you have to do an evaluation before you come up with that conclusion? It's like, nah, plead this, and then I'll do the evaluation later. I don't know. That's what he's making it sound like, unless he's horribly misrepresenting what happened.
Needless to
Take his
say,
word for
when she
it.
pled not guilty by reason of insanity in February, the
Okay.
same process happened as happened when she raised competency. Sent down to the state hospital. The state hospital chooses who's going to do the evaluation. They make a decision on who already knows the case. Dr. Torres and Dr. Gray already read all the discovery in this case. They knew the facts of the case. They knew the defendant, but they're doing a different evaluation. As you remember, competency goes to her state of mind at the time they're doing the evaluation. What's her understanding, what's happening in the courtroom, whether or not she can get along with her attorneys, that kind of thing. Insanity is completely different. Insanity, you got to go back, just like the law says, at the time of the crime, what was her mental state? So that's a much broader evaluation. You got to look at everything.
Yeah.
So Dr. Torres and Dr. Gray, they also reach out again, call out. They attempt to talk to Harley, family members, to see what's going on with her. But what is the defendant saying now? Gone off of bipolar now. And now she's created more personalities as part of this dissociative identity disorder.
Yo, so she tried to pitch that she had bipolar, and then she's like, no, just kidding, never mind. I have DID. Yep, that works better. Yep, let's do it.
Is it just a coincidence that she's consulted with Dr. Lewis prior to all this? Now Maria Sanchez comes into play during this evaluation.
Did Ramoa exist back in the day?
Dr. Torres testified, and it's in a report, that she said, there is no credible evidence to conclude she has a condition that conforms to the definition of a mental disease or defect. Pretty powerful language. That's powerful language. No credible evidence. What's also interesting about this evaluation compared to Dr. Lewis's evaluation is they do 2 interviews, if you remember. One was in March, one was in June. The March interview, I think I couldn't count how many questions, but it wasn't a lot of questions asked. It was the defendant talking. They just let her go. In June, they asked more questions. One of the questions that Dr. Torres asked is, can we talk to Maria? Can we talk to Maria Sanchez? She said, no, Maria just doesn't come out. There's got to be some kind of stressor, or there's got to be a triggering event, which coincidentally is exactly what the DSM-5 says. I can't just summon Maria. You saw on Wednesday how that happened. It was magic, according to Dr. Lewis.
Okay, you guys are going to get me in trouble with my search history. Airtight doesn't always mean smell tight. Unfortunately for drug smugglers, airtight doesn't mean smell proof. Some airtight materials, such as plastic, contain microscopic pores that leak smell to a dog's nose. These microscopic holes are as large as the holes in a fishing net. But what about suitcases? I don't know. This just talks about like vacuum seal bags, airtight containers, drugs, marijuana. It seems like the dog can still smell it. What are these 70 suitcases that we're talking about? Okay.
No severe abnormal mental conditions that grossly and demonstrably impair a person's perception of understanding of reality. No psychosis. No bipolar. Because remember the first competency evaluation, they said they had to rule it out. They've ruled it out. Bipolar does not exist with this defendant based on Dr. Torres and Dr. Gray. They also said no dissociative identity disorder. Didn't have to rule that out. They had enough to say there's no credible evidence. That's not there. They continued on with the diagnosis of other specified personality disorder with borderline and narcissistic features. Dr. Torres and Dr. Gray came to the conclusion that the defendant was not legally insane at the time of the crime. Let's go to the next slide, which is the credibility instruction. This instruction applies to experts as well. You may believe all the testimony of the witness, part of it, or none of it. This instruction applies to every witness who testifies, including Dr. Lewis. I got highlighted certain words there. Motive. Didn't see motive in the elements of first-degree murder, but you see it here. Money is a strong motivator.
You guys
Having
are
shows
getting
on
me in trouble.
HBO, strong motivator. Having your son videotape evaluations on a first-degree murder case that's gotten quite a bit of publicity, or perhaps another documentary, is motive. You're gonna do a documentary, she says, she's saying, sorry, did what I could. Acting. Not as good as, well, not as bad as Robert De Niro, I guess she would say, but she's acting. You also have to look at her demeanor and manner while testifying. She wouldn't answer any of my questions. She wouldn't answer my questions because she didn't want you to know the answers. She wanted you to know what she wanted to say. She shows up to court late. Talk about narcissistic tendencies. Manner while testifying. I think that speaks for itself, how she testified.
Today All I know is they're given a lunch. They don't have to leave. But to what time? I don't know. The judge might have mentioned it towards the end. I didn't get to that part. The DEA is out there.
Especially when you compare Dr. Torres. Obviously she would disagree with my questions. Remember how many times she says it depends?
I'm on the good list, okay? I have TSA pre-check.
To me, she's not our expert. Just happens to be the expert.
I'm a
of the state
good
hospital travelers
citizen.
who come in to do a neutral evaluation. The truth. Dr. Lewis. She didn't know the legal definition of insanity in the state of Colorado, ladies and gentlemen. The whole reason she came in to testify.
Okay, so he kind of just the person who does the rebuttal just basically reiterates what he says.
I'm not even sure what her opinion is anymore, based on your questions. Remember how she answered it? About the MRI and the EEG that she withdrew?
Uh-huh.
My opinion is ongoing. What does that mean? Does that tell you that her opinion that she was legally insane at the time counts for anything? Because when you think about her report, she does this preliminary report, which was supposed to be an insanity report, 35 days before trial.
Yeah.
That says, hey, I need more information. I need an EEG and an MRI done if I'm going to make a decision on insanity.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
MRIs, take someone to the hospital for 2 hours, you do an MRI, you come back. Never happened. But yet, a few days before trial, she hands over a report saying, I find her legally insane, and that's literally all she says. I don't know what standard of insanity she's using, but I do know that she didn't get the information that she needed. But you know what information she had? She had a third MMPI-2 test that Dr. Torres told you about, that Dr. Leach took, that was hired by the defense to do psychological testing based on what Dr. Lewis requested. Guess what the results of that showed? It was the same, exaggerating psychiatric symptoms to the point where people who are hospitalized for mental illnesses would not answer those questions that way. That didn't seem to matter.
Rip, Dr.
I want
Lewis,
to talk about
man.
the facts of the case, and the reason why I want to do that is because I think it's important for you to look at the defendant's actions.
Okay, so I think it's the person that does the rebuttal does a really good job and basically summarizes everything. Can we just read this really quick? Does anyone here have bad handwriting? If you have bad handwriting, I'm sorry, I'm gonna make fun of people who have bad handwriting. Or childlike handwriting. Oh, let's see. Letecia. I want to just read this because Letecia writes a handwritten complaint about some of the prison conditions. Okay, I just want to see what she complains about. Let's see. Man, we got handwritten notes. Is there a way I can get a PDF of this only? Is there a way? Can I get a PDF? Original PDF. Yes. PDF filed September 22nd, 2022. Oh, man. Letecia Stauch. So, again, by the way, the jury, they're deliberating right now. We don't know if they're going to come to their decision today or maybe tomorrow. But today's Friday, right? I think they're going to come with a decision today. Does she dot her I's with her hearts? I don't know. It's just like really big, like childlike handwriting. Jesus. Okay. Let's see what she complains about. Claim number 1, kosher violations, First Amendment. All right. From July 2021 to February 2022, my First Amendment right was violated by means of my kosher diet. Inmates signed an agreement stating they will adhere to the policy and follow their kosher diet guidelines to avoid interruption of meals and services. Wait, inmates sign an agreement stating they will adhere to the policy and follow their kosher diet guidelines. What is this sentence? During this time, I expressed several concerns of my meals not being wrapped appropriately, items that were not kosher approved being placed in our diets, and the violations of sanitation by putting kosher on open trays. I asked deputies to alert superiors that the policy in their custom by El Paso County Jail was not prohibited per the religious affiliation. Below are a list of inmate kites that followed. One staff refused to contact Trinity Food Services, and something administration know of their violations. What the heck is she? What is this? August 8th. Is that kite? Is that what it says? Kite or kite, right? To Trinity Foods? Explaining the contamination and kosher items on open trays. September 4, reported improper kosher and contaminations. She eats kosher food. Does she always eat kosher food? I'm very curious about that. Or is she now just eating kosher food? Okay. Okay. Kites are a complaint form. Okay. Thank you. It's a kite. Okay. Kite is a jail email system. They have like a computer they can write to people. Okay. Thank you. Because I was like, am I reading this right? Or am I just like, is that something else? Okay. November 19. Sent Kite explaining the staff was using a pen marker to write K on the non-kosher items that did not already have the standard approval. These were non-kosher items and violated the signed agreement. On 11/22, a response from jail said to Kite, the kitchen again. Okay. The jail continued to ignore the customs and policy for kosher inmates and placed the blame on the contractor, Trinity Foods. However, the contractor is conducting business at El Paso County Jail, and administration SSGIs failed to monitor or adjust violations. Next, during the court transport in September 2021, November 2021, and February 2022, I advised deputies that they were not providing kosher meals while at court, and eating the sack lunches were a violation of our kosher sign policy. I also asserted my First Amendment right on each occasion and asked the jail to adhere to the policies on religious diets. After several attempts, I noticed retaliation and was not provided my kosher, or my meal was delayed for hours when other kosher and non-kosher inmates had theirs. On February 12, Deputy Stauch, a named defendant, sent in a violation of kosher to religious programs, and they terminated my meal. From February 14, 2022 until February 28, 2022, I sent several kites and asked SSGIs could they provide the proof and reason behind the suspension that I did not violate the agreement, that in fact, the jail continued to show a direct link between the policy and a constitutional injury. Wow. During this time, I received notification that Deputy Stauch observed me violating the diet by eating other foods. So they're saying that she's not even like, she doesn't even eat kosher food. This bitch is probably just trying to be like, you know what? I do eat kosher food, and she just wants to be like difficult so she can have something to complain about. But yo, Deputy Stauch said she was eating something else. What was she eating? Like Hot Pockets or something? Pop-Tarts? I explained to her that these purchase items on commissary were not excluded. Wait, what? So she did order food from the commissary, but they're not kosher foods, but that's okay? When you eat kosher food, don't you usually just stick to a kosher diet? Not like, hey, you know, my meals need to be kosher, but my snacks can be whatever the fuck I want it to be. Inmates should have to eat whatever other inmates eat and be happy with what they get. Sorry, it's not a restaurant cuisine quality food. One is Sasquatch. I mean, if you're eating kosher food and that's because of your religious, you know, your religion, then I can understand that. Or if you're someone that wants to eat like vegan food, you know, because you don't think animals should be murdered, even though if you're a murderer, that's kind of a weird one there. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I get it, but yo, they're saying that like she wasn't even eating kosher snacks. She's just trying to be difficult, probably. Once again, asked the jail to hold a meeting or some form of hearing demonstrating that I did not adhere and that these actions were not prejudiced on behalf of Stauch. Instead, I received unjust punishment as a result of this individual who was competent and who showed extreme indifference, more than negligence, toward my First Amendment right. From February 14 to August 14th, I was suspended from my diet, which led to weight loss, depression, boo-hoo, and being limited to one meal a day because of excessive commissary prices. I suffered conflicts between myself and substantial burdens on my religious practice. This led me to modified religious beliefs and being forced to eat regular meals. Wait, what? So because she was starving and she was only getting one meal a day, she's like, well, I'm going to have to change my religion now because now I can't eat kosher foods. Is that what she's saying right here? She modified her religious beliefs. Okay. And now she's forced to eat regular meals and or non-kosher items or not eat at all. I received my kosher back on 8/14 after 6 months. Immediately, the disregard to our customs provided more constitutional injury, the 1st and the 14th. Okay. On August 17, 2022, I expressed the violation of Deputy Stauch named defendant and how the jail continued to fail at controlling direction or supervising others for our rights explained in the inmate handbook and our First Amendment right to practice religion. I explained to her that the meal for lunch and dinner were not approved items and were processed with other foods, causing contamination. I also addressed the need to reach out to her superiors to help bring the kitchen in compliance with the policy. After all, she was a party in violation and continued operation. Deputy Stauch became confrontational and abused her power while acting in official capacity. She insisted that the meal was correct, ignored my complaint to my First Amendment right, and refused to serve me a proper kosher diet. She was competent because she acknowledged the error and she explained that she was too busy to deal with it. She accepted Trinity's reasoning and did not alert her superiors that our rights were being violated, even though the first deputy oath of office is to protect individual rights. Man, she did a lot of research to copy paste some of the phrases in here. She even stated, if you don't like it, don't come to jail. If you don't like it, don't come to jail. This is not the first time that she retaliated with comments such as these. In fact, she was also a deputy who ignored the violations that I listed in 2021. Deputies are only means to a correct meal while locked down from 2021 to 22 hours a day. Damn, that's how long they're locked down for? Jesus. The following is the next few non-compliances. 8/15/2022, non-kosher. 8/16, no proteins for kosher meals, extremely low calorie. 8/17, non-kosher lunch and dinner. But she needs to say, like, why are they non-kosher? All she said so far was they were not wrapped the right way, right? But she needs to like give like specific examples, like, oh, this meat had this, and this meat didn't have this, or this touched this. Like, she needs to be more specific. Sounds like BS. 8/18, the most striking of the kosher violations from Trinity Food was when they serve, oh, here it is, smeat, which is processed meat with non-kosher items in a plant around pork. Okay, she's getting specific a little bit. They will claim that no pork touched the meat, but the meal was a violation and contamination of non-kosher either way. They serve meat, which is a processed meat with non-kosher items in a plant around pork. How does she know this? How does she know what the processing is like? The item has always been excluded from any kosher meals. Throughout this time, I was told that Trinity employee named Tim said, we are cutting back due to inflation, and sometimes the food will be non-kosher. Eat it or buy commissary. On the next occasion, I'm told the ward deputy he was following guidelines, but still, El Paso jail refused to supervise the contractor. On 8/18, we told SSGI Brooks, who entered A3 female ward during our out time, he said he did not know anything about it, but yet nothing happened, as in no remedies to these reports of First Amendment violations. On 8/19, the meals were still incorrect. All defendants continue to ignore the constitutional right. Defendants understand and have culpable state. This policy is ignored because there is a disregard to our customs and the jail's handbook. Oh yeah, she must be reading the jail handbook or something like that. This forces inmates to alter their religious belief, not eat at all, or have excessive commissary spending when we are afforded 3 meals a day. We are deliberate intentions. Oh, these deliberate intentions, even after 1 year of trying to resolve the issue and demonstrate prejudice to the religion. The parties involved expect me to follow my signed religious agreement, but can't ignore it on their end. The defendants' name are not immune under the 11th Amendment because 1, 2, and 3 are all in their official capacity. And I've met the factors in the prong test, and all defendants implemented and possess responsibility and know they something. Claim number 2, medical neglect, the 8th Amendment. I was arrested in March of 2020, and upon intake, I signed an ROI and explained my extensive history with stomach issue. I suffer from severe IBS-C with symptoms present 12 or more days a month, leaky gut, abdominal pain present 15 or more days a month, internal, external bleeding, blood and stool, 7 or more days a month, swelling. See, this is why you don't go to jail, okay? Because you have a lot of medical issues, you have a diet and stuff like that. Dude, don't go to jail then. Because you know what? They ain't gonna give a shit about you too much, you know? And you're just kind of, it sucks. Shit. She got bleeding, blood and stool. She got swelling beyond the normal range. The presence of knots in my stomach that one can feel in constant pelvic pain due to the stomach issues listed above. I explained that I experienced frequent times of not producing a bowel movements. Ooh, 10 to 15 days at a time. Ooh, and sometimes more. I have been prescribed Miralax, Senna, and a stool softener at various times. Below is a list of communication through my inmate kite system. Kite only go shows through November 2021, November. Medical kits. Oh, medical kites. Okay. On November 27, 2021. Stomach issues, constipation, current medication was not working. The provider responded that no changes would be made. 12/7/2021, denying medication that was productive. The provider responded that I was at a 56% compliant rate. I explained to the med cart nurse, Jane Doe, that the percentage was invalid because MedPass was constantly out of the Miralax and or Senna due to staffing. Sometimes medical never showed, and they counted the days I was out of custody, temporary, in their responses, thus making their response invalid. What is she saying? Poor Tisha, no sushi in prison. January 18, 2022. My kite said, can I get different stomach meds since the provider refuses to evaluate me? The response was a deflection as the provider responded with, please make sure you are placing a request in a professional manner. I was flabbergasted because the kite listed above was appropriate. 15 days without going. 3/12/2022. Request for medication to clean system out because I was at 11 days straight. So, oh my God, poor woman couldn't take a shit. March 26, 2022, stomach help request and severe pain, and they responded that I was scheduled to see the doctor. I never saw a doctor, and then bleeding started. February 11, 2022, 16 days without a stool, medication, not working, stomach pain, and bleeding. Dude, I wonder if this is just like most of this just bullshit. Just BS. Like she's bored in jail and she's just trying to stir up some drama or something like that. April 10, 2022, explained that I had been requesting help since January 18, 2022, and still did not see a doctor. Sorry, brain fart. June 10, spoke to Jane Doe nurse, who had her badge backwards and refused to give her name. She stated that I needed to drink water and stop eating the trays. I told her I eat once a day and drink at least 12 to 14 8-ounce cups a day. I explained that the issue was chronic and I was at risk for bowel obstruction and for other long-term health risks. No help provided. Bleeding continued, swelling pain, tiny movable knots in stomach, appeared without seeing a doctor. Jane Doe described tall, about 5'9", dark, long brown hair, medium build, fair white skin. August 19, told medical staff that I needed relief due to stomach swelling, constipation, bleeding, and pain that was worse than any previous kite and that the current fiber lacked and a stool softener are not working. Note, I have sent grievances, spoke with several medical staff members to include but not limited to Heather, Danielle, Maggie, and several other Jane Does who hid their badges instead of their clothing or who turned around backwards from March 2020 to August 2022. I informed SSGI's name, Bryant, Iyad, Doucette, and someone named Simpson, according to the ward deputy, about the medical neglect. I was told to keep kiting and to understand the staffing was low. The jail continues to ignore the negligence of contractor well-faith, therefore being an active participant in the responsibility for the continued operation and constitutional environment. Claim number 2, continued neglect. On another occasion, I requested a medical evaluation for a concussion. The second one while at CJC. In July 2022, I rolled off the top bunk and hit my head and bruised my rib. Good. I hope it was a nightmare that Gannon was giving you. I alerted the ward deputy who called and emailed medical staff. I was told to put in a kite. These are the symptoms that was told to medical staff and that continued. Nausea, several hours, dizziness, 2 days, bleeding, 2 hours persistent, off and on for 1 day. Later, scabbing occurred. Pain ignored, but lasted 4 days. back of head, headaches, still active, off and on, sensitivity, vomiting, off and on, 1 day, blurry vision, 2 days. Note, I still continue to have headaches, difficulty thinking clearly and remembering information. I did send a kite on July 19, 2022, and July 21st, 2022, July 26, July 30. I was told to be patient and I was placed on a sick call multiple times. On August 16, 2022, Maggie, welfare nurse, appeared to almost 30 days after the incident. I explained to her that the incident occurred while sleeping, as I was having nightmares and sleepwalking conditions. Oh, nightmares, eh? How long is the letter? We're almost done. I explained the continued issue and that this was the second one in a year. I also asked for the bottom bunk restriction to prevent further head damage, and I was sure that I damaged my ribs as well. I also expressed my concern for neglecting a head trauma for almost 30 days. She told me to kite mental health instead because they handle those type of things. Once again, I received incompetent responses from an individual who is a licensed nurse hired by Welfast? I don't know. This is probably a company. This is beyond a reasonable response time, and are beyond negligent, as explained in my section involving my stomach issues. Both issues are serious and risk potential further health issues or risk of harm. Individuals and organizations the same in situation outside of these defendants would know that without the proper medication, x-rays, etc., the symptoms will increase, the pain level will increase, and this will lead to more stomach and gastrointestinal tract issues, head congestion, head or cognitive related issues, concussions. In addition, the stomach issues could lead to bowel destruction and internal bleeding, as per my GI doctor. Dude, I wonder if the reason why she has her head down in court the entire time is because she's like in severe stomach pain and she just can't shit. And she's so constipated that she can't really sit in court properly. She's got her head down. Oh my God. In summary, the named defendants in claim number 2 showed deliberate indifference more than negligence, causing medical suffering and harm, or potential knowledge that harm will result. Both parties violate the 8th Amendment by 1, deprivations of a basic human need that is serious, and 2, acted with a sufficiently culpable state of mind. Welfast controls the direction, disregards the health and safety. El Paso County Jail fails to supervise and engage in promulgated implementation of the casual policy, also disregarding inmates' health and safety. Other individuals in both comparisons would know that their action violates the amendment. In addition, both capacities and entities are imposing the punishment of lack of medical care as a punishment, and El Paso County is not immune to the 11th Amendment. I have included a policy or custom exists that there is a direct link between the policy custom and the constitutional injury. Finally, both defendants refuse to protect inmates from inhuman treatment and the conditions that are deliberate and prejudiced when compared to other inmates' populations or even at all. Inmates on chemical dependency are monitored and receive doctor visits, but the handbook preludes to treatment for all basic medical needs, and rises to the level of cruel and unusual. Claim number 1 involve defendants. Defendant number 1, El Paso County for El Paso County Jail, who are under the color of law, failed to supervise the trained staff properly, failed to bring the kitchen and workers in compliance with kosher, uniform fashion, entities policy or custom, promulgated, created, implemented, or possessed responsibility for the continued constitutional injury to disregard 1 and 14th Amendment. 4, abuse or discretionary use of opinion evidence. Defendant number 2, Stengel. Oh, who was number 1? Oh, okay, the county jail. Okay, Stengel. Deputy Stengel engaged in individual participation, knowingly and with prejudice to one's legal rights due to plaintiff's current prejudicial publicity. The plaintiff's right to practice religion in accordance with customs and continue to report frivolous claims without merit or abuse of power or tactics. In fact, there is no tangible evidence to warrant the kosher suspension. She used false reputation evidence to punish and violate the First Amendment. Defendant number 3, R. Snipe. The individual participated in the violation by a total disregard of the First Amendment due process by suggesting that there is a deserved punishment with comments mentioned, in addition to her disregard to fix the diet when she is the only means to do so while it was locked down during 2021-2022. Claim number 1, continued. Trinity Food Services. Disregard inmates' health and risk of substantial burden placed by religious diet violations. Failure to supervise kitchen staff and outside employees, those that instruct inmates in the kitchen on how to properly prepare a kosher diet, aware of their actions and violate the right. Claim number 2. What do we have now? Claim number 2, defendant number 4, days, I don't know, deprivation of basic medical care, acted with culpable state of mind, being a hired licensed professional in the area of expertise, disregarded the objectively serious condition, medical need or risk of harm if left untreated properly. We have El Paso County, and is that it? Is that towards the end? Oh, that's it. Man, thought we were going to read more. Defendant number 1, El Paso County, aware that contractor WellPath's action violate 8th Amendment rights and they have possessed responsibility for the continued operation and risk of harm. WellPath. Okay, WellPath. Note, in reference to all the defendants, all these other individuals or entities would adhere to these rights and or know their actions violate that right. I think Corky-san is the only person to read the letter completely. Jail staff probably just scanned it and filed it away. This is entertaining. Okay, it's entertaining to me. I'm glad that she's suffering in jail. I mean, she does have a right to medical stuff and eating the food that she needs to eat, but I'm glad that she's suffering right now. I don't know. It's also possible that she's just being, it's also possible that she's just lying, right? Like, I don't know. I wish I could hear from their side of the story. You know, you have like a customer that complains, blah, 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 blah. And then when you get the response from the restaurant or the response from the business, and it's like, oh, so this is what actually happened. And the customer's just trying to get their way. And yeah, I don't know. I want to hear from both sides of the story. I need a padded cells and 3 or 4 enemas a day. Lol. I think it's just interesting. I wonder, so this was filed. I wonder if anything came out of it. Let's see. Did anything come out of it? I don't think so, right? At least not yet. Letecia Stauch lawsuit update. How about that? All right. Anything going on right now? We're still waiting, right? Lawsuit update. Jail lawsuit update. The Gazette. Shall we read the Gazette? I think that's the most updated one that we have. All right, the Gazette. Oh, geez. Okay. Attorneys representing El Paso County and 2 El Paso County Sheriff's deputies filed a motion in federal court on Wednesday to dismiss a lawsuit filed with Letecia Stauch. The lawsuit filed on September 22nd claims that El Paso County, the jail's food provider, a pair of El Paso County, I'm going to zoom in some more. A pair of El Paso County Sheriff deputies and jail medical providers had mistreated Stauch and violated her First and 8th Amendment rights, which protect the freedom of religion and protect against cruel and unusual punishment, respectively. Stauch makes 2 claims against the county jail. First, that she and other inmates could not get kosher meals from Trinity Food Services despite her request. The parties involved expect me to follow my signed religious agreement, but can ignore it on their end, claims in her lawsuit. The second is that Stauch's rights are being violated by poor medical treatment while being detained in jail. Stauch claimed that she was giving medicine for the stomach ailment for which she was initially detained in 2020, but that it doesn't work. Stauch alleges that that she tried to obtain new medication for her stomach issues in 21, 22, but continued to be denied, something that flabbergasted her. Another accusation over medical mistreatment is alleged by Stauch in the lawsuit. Stauch claims that in July, she requested a medical evaluation for a concoction after falling off the top bunk and hitting her head. I'm sorry, laughing. Stauch said that she has to be evaluated several times, but did not receive medical assistance until 30 days later. I still continue to have headaches, The attorneys representing El Paso County and 2 named deputies asked the court to dismiss all complaints by Stauch. The motion argues that Stauch's First Amendment rights had not been violated because not getting kosher meals did not substantially burden her sincerely held religious beliefs. Here, CJC has established guidelines providing access to religious diet. Plaintiff acknowledged those guidelines via her signature. Guidelines such as this are not necessary for the safe and orderly function of the jail. The motion states that even if Stauch's First Amendment rights had been violated, that the 2 named deputies specifically could not be responsible for such violation. The motion also says that El Paso County should not be named as a defendant because it does not have control over the jail. Rather, the sheriff's office does. Attorneys representing Trinity Food Services filed a motion to dismiss allegations made by Stauch. Stauch is set to go to trial in March, and yeah, we got that. Okay, so no update. They just want to dismiss it. Interesting. I wonder if she was always eating kosher foods, or it's just something that she decided to do now just to be difficult, so she has something to complain about, you know? Jasmine, the constipated princess. Totally off subject, but Al should really sue to take his name back. I know. She's destroyed the Stauch family name. What was her name before that? Yeah, we should stop calling her Letecia Stauch. Just call her Letecia. I feel bad, man. One of her personalities must be Jewish. Her other personalities are kosher. Oh man. All right. So on jury watch, right? What would the jury decide for Letecia Stauch? I say guilty. Let's see. 98% say guilty on law and crime. 2% not guilty by reason of insanity. All right. Well, still waiting. Letecia. I did want to watch. Was it this? Is this the one that
Hey
you're
guys,
watching?
welcome to my channel. So I was poking around online and
Poking
I
around?
found this old interview with Al Stauch.
Ready when you are.
All right, so we're on Zav Girl. That's her YouTube channel. Thanks, Zav Girl.
I think we all know how to say and spell your first and last name. Know that you guys are officially split. How does that feel?
As you know, I'm a very private person, so that doesn't really affect me at all. I know there's been talk here and there, but I wasn't really worried about what the public thought about that. So
I will say that you made a almost immediate stance to say in September you guys were not connected. And this is one extra level of you guys not being connected.
Right.
It does feel as if you're trying to push this as well.
Who decided to do this interview? Why did they not give the reporters a mic as well? Come on now.
yeah, just the weight is lifted. That's the best way to put it. You know, regardless of, I really feel once she left, I think right after your interview is when she left, way back in January. That was it. But you know, we got the formality of going through things. But yeah, just the fact that I don't have to think about this anymore, that it's done, is a huge weight lifted. So.
You know, you always like to keep Gannon at the center of any story that we are covering throughout this case.
I don't see him mentioning gun.
Be thinking about as far as Gannon goes today.
Yeah, he'll always be the center of this. And as you saw in there, there's, you know, some of the things that we had to discuss about him, you know, drew some emotions. But yeah, he's always at the forefront, right there with his sister. You know, she's got a life ahead of her as well, dealing with this. So they'll never be separate.
Oh, the firearms?
Well, I think what you've seen is a test of all of our characters and all of our resolve, and we're not stopping. So that's the best way to answer that.
I also, this might be getting too into the nitty-gritty of things, but whenever you guys were discussing the firearms, it struck me how important it was for you, if any of those have been involved, to destroy that property. If it does get back to you, or if the authorities do that, why is that so important to you? I know we don't know yet if that was the weapon. It hasn't been disclosed, but why is that so important?
I'm just going to leave that one for now.
What we had for you.
No, it doesn't say anything about it. I'm actually confused.
A chance to say?
No, I think between what was said in the courtroom by Mr. Travis, did an amazing job, and you know, the questions today, I think that's it. And I appreciate you guys.
Oh, okay. He doesn't really answer anything about the firearm. Always best to do interviews in front of a loud construction site. Demanding kosher is a trick to get higher quality food. I'm late to the story. So what's your excuse aside from the crack and being crazy as to why she killed the 11-year-old boy? Hi, DJ Apocalypse. How are you doing today? Well, what we think her motive was, she was angry at the husband. She made some Google searches saying that, like, you know, she's just like basically a glorified babysitter for the husband while the husband is away. She obviously hated the biological mom. She thought the biological mom wasn't doing enough to pull her away to take care of the kids. And she's like, why am I taking their kids? Like, I'm basically taking care of everyone else's kids. Like, why am I doing this? Seems like she has some hatred towards the son, maybe because he favored his mom more, possibly. Yeah, that's about it. And yeah, her excuse from her side of the story is that she had multiple personality disorder. And then when she was murdering the boy, she didn't realize that she was murdering him. She thought it was someone else in a cape. but it was really him in a bed wrapped in a blanket. Do we buy it? Nope. We sure don't. And then, yeah, we're just waiting for the jury to come up with their verdict right now. Let's see. Any minute now. Yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'll do is what I did last time with Terry Sanderson and Gwyneth Paltrow was they came up with the verdict in one day too. It was pretty quick, actually. Yeah, they came up with the verdict pretty quickly. Murdoch came with the verdict pretty quickly. I think the one that we had to wait the longest on this stream was when we were waiting for the Depp Heard one. Under an hour. It's been like 2 hours already. I feel like they're gonna come with a verdict today. You know, one, it's a Friday. They really want to come back on Monday to decide, but it's already technically 5:37. Oh no, this is Colorado time, right? So Colorado time is 3:37. I think they'll come up with a verdict today. She also thought that Al was still really sleeping with her ex. Oh, I didn't hear that part. Yeah, that part wasn't brought up. I didn't hear that. But yeah, guys, I don't know. I'll keep an eye out for the verdict. Ping me on Discord if I do miss it though, but I'll have it up. I'm gonna end the YouTube stream and then I will. What am I gonna do? What should I do today? I don't know. I'll either stream on Twitch or maybe I'll just like chop up the video for YouTube. Maybe I'll just edit the video. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Crime Watch has a verdict counter. Oh, they do? Dun 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 dun. Where is that? I just googled it. I'm getting nothing. I'm just getting all Johnny Depp and Amber Heard verdict watch. Why am I getting this? Have a great weekend. I think they're gonna come with a verdict today. If they do, I'm gonna turn the stream back on and let's watch it together because I want to see her face. Although I think she's gonna have her head down the entire time. I don't know. I hope she cries. I want to get some emotion out of her. I hope she cries. I hope she like rages. I hope she does something. I want some emotion out of her, not just her sitting there like, you know. I know deep down inside it's gonna crush her. Oh, crime talk. Okay. Thank you. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you missed today's stream, it'll be back again later. I'll make it live or I'll just chop it up. I'm pretty sure I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to chop it up. Sorry, I haven't chopped the Lori Vallow stuff because I've just been really lazy. I'm going to chop it up. If you guys missed it, we watched the defense closing statement. We watched the rebuttal. And then we went a little bit back to the closing argument. The reason why I skipped it to rebuttal was because sometimes the rebuttal just kind of summarizes everything that they say in closing argument. Closing argument, I go into more details because they have more time maybe. But yeah. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. Oh, bye Jeannie, bye Rain, bye Billion, bye Taxi, bye Morton, bye Mama Bear, Roddy Mom, Adam. And yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out. I'm sorry, I'm not scrolling through. I'm just seeing who's replying right now. But if you guys are new here, feel free to hit the sub button. Thank you for lurking. I appreciate you guys lurking. Join the Discord if you haven't already. It's a community hangout. We do have a true crime channel, so feel free to post some things in there, you know, any true crime related stuff, anything related to the case. Or if you're like, you know what, I don't want to do true crime, okay, let's not talk about true crime. Well, you know what, post pictures of cute dogs or something like that. We have other channels as well. And then for what else is there? Oh yeah, follow Instagram if you guys like. I don't know, that's about it. Tisha's gonna flip the bird to the judge. I hope I get some emotion out of her, you know. I want to see the moment that it settles in that she's screwed. She's effed for life. And I'm saying that with confidence that they're going to come back with guilty. Oh my God. If they came back with not guilty by insanity, I don't know. We might lose it. I don't know. We might start crying or something like that. The Discord link is this working? Oh God. Hold on, I spelled it wrong. Discord link. It should be popping up soon. No? Did it pop up? Sorry. For some reason, the Discord link doesn't show on my end for some reason, but I think it shows on your guys' end. Did it work? Did the Discord link work? Someone make it work. Taxi, thank you so much. I do appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you guys have the membership to this channel, any super chats, I do appreciate your support. But most of all, I do appreciate you guys just being here and just chatting with me. That's super awesome. Very cool as well. That definitely is a form of support that I really appreciate. But other than that, I'm going to see you guys later. I do stream on Twitch as well. If you guys like gaming stuff, you want to take a break from true crime stuff, feel free to stop in. Feel free to stop by, say hi. But other than that, if they don't decide today, I guess I'll see you. I guess you guys have a good weekend. But I'm sure they're going to decide today, right? Pretty sure they're going to decide today. What's the poll say? We have 263 votes. The jury would decide 71% says yes, 11% says no, 17% no idea. Oh my God, I think it's a yes. Yes. It worked. Okay, cool. All right, guys, thank you so much. If I don't see you today, have a good weekend. All right, take care. I'll post some YouTube videos. All right, y'all, have a good one. Bye. But if they decide today, I'll be back later on. Okay, we'll be back. I'll be back later.